All right, hello everybody, and thank you for joining us all weekend long for this year's Metroid Marathon. And to finish things off, we have RaikouRider here about to take us through one of my favorite randomizers, the Super Metroid and Link to the Past Combination Randomizer.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am RaikouRider, and I will be guiding you through today's seed of one of the greatest randomizers to come on the scene, which is the Super Metroid and Link to the Past crossover randomizer by Total. There will be 316 items scattered throughout two locations, or 300 scattered throughout two games, rather. Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past and Super Metroid. So without further ado, let's kick this off in 3, 2, 1, go. So we're going to be starting off in Super Metroid, along with this beautiful Mega Man X sprite. Version 11 has actually included some custom sprite support, which is really nice. Unfortunately, without a morph ball, there's not a lot we can do in Super Metroid, so we're going to be taking one of the 4 cross-game portals, which is very conveniently located in this Criteria shaft. And there's a lot more to do in Zelda.
Yep, not much you can really check in Super Metroid on the early side here. You can go all the way down to the Morph Ball's vanilla location. In the normal logic, it only expects you to be able to get that item. And there is one in the ceiling you can look at, but unless you know how to damage boost, we're just going to give that a pass for now, because you can clean that up later. Now, what RaikouRider is going to do, he's going to go to Sanctuary, and we're going to see him walking east towards the river. And he's going to do a little bit of a money-making trick here we call the Hula Hand. Put you into a wrong warp secret room that the debug coders put in, and named after somebody who won an old contest in the Nintendo Power magazine back in the 90s.
That is correct. So the purpose of this, we're going to be heading to the Chris Houlihan room, just like Zeruvian said. This is an error handling room, where when the game does not know where to put you, it will put you in this room. And it has 225 rupees to pick up, which will handle all of our early game money needs very nicely. You might have noticed that I did not open the chest in the Sanctuary right away. The reason why I did not do that is because this method of getting into the Chris Houlihan room depends on you not having flippers. And yes, I have seen flippers in that chest before.
Alright, so now we'll pick up this chest, and we're going to head west into the south side of Kakariko Village.
Actually, no, I'm going to head in... Oh. I'm actually going to be doing the Uncle first, and then I'm going to be doing a north-south. The reason why I'm doing it this way is because this makes the bottle vendor kind of awkward to check. And it also gets me the... It gets me all of the tree pulls as well.
And when you come in from the Super Metroid side, the game will preload you at the start with the Tier 3 tree pull. Today we see it's randomized in this game. It gives us full magic. That might be nice if we see a magical weapon like a fire rod. These 2 checks are easy to get out of the way. His uncle, of course, just giving us his allowance this week. And this other check. And our first ammo pack for Super Metroid. So now we go back to Sanctuary. We're going to open that chest.
So now I'm really going to be looking out for gloves. What I don't want to see right now is a lamp, because that can put in... A lamp can put the back of Escape into logic without a glove, and it always feels bad to go that way, just because of how easy it is to check the... Because you can check the back of Escape very easily. If you have a glove. Not too happy with these pulls. You can also check the bush. You can also check the bush crab this way too.
Sometimes the bush crab's going to give you some real good stuff, like 20 rupees or some bombs. And today, all it's spitting out is hearts. So we're going to have a look at the lumberjack ledge, just to tell us whether or not we have an item waiting behind, climbing the castle tower and facing off against Aga 1. And it's just a heart container. So we'll probably give that a dodge unless it's our logical Dark World access, which in this particular randomizer isn't quite as much a sure bet as it would be in Link to the Past on its own.
And also, another point about this is the logic for the Zelda side of the combo randomizer uses an older version of the Link to the Past randomizer. It's based on version 30. The reason for that is there were a lot of fairly controversial changes between version 30 and 31, and Total did not like some of the changes that were made, such as the bomb capacity upgrades being moved to the Pond of Happiness. Some of them were removed in version 11, but not all of them.
Of course, the most... We're going to say the same thing. The most important thing to note here is we do have a lot of progressive items that have come in through the later versions of the Link to the Past randomizer, but one progressive item you won't see in SMZ3 is your bow. You're going to have one item for your bow and one item for your silver arrows. And there's no guarantee which order they're going to appear in.
Another logic quirk. Another logic quirk about this version of the Zelda logic and the combo randomizer, as opposed to current Link to the Past logic, is Fire Rod is not a logical progression for Dark Rooms. You cannot be expected to use Fire Rod Dark Room navigation.
By that, of course, that means the lamp is that much more important logically because it puts any Dark Room into logic, whereas the Fire Rod literally only functions for areas that require you to light torches or the back of Skull Woods, things of that nature.
It's just important to note. So it makes the Fire Rod a little bit less important. It's still going to wind up being probably pretty important and probably required. So some of the things we're looking out for, probably the biggest one is that all-important Morph Ball.
The Morph Ball is required for a good, hefty chunk of the Super Metroid side here, so the earlier we see that, the earlier you might be tempted to go ahead and dip in. Of course, the Morph Ball is not going to be very useless on its own merits without something to fire with it, so you're looking for some Power Bomb packs or your Morph Ball bombs, which also function as what we call in Logic as a Can Fly.
Can Fly specifically refers to vertical movement in Super Metroid, and it is either usable Morph Ball bombs or Space Jump. And speaking of very nice things, I like seeing that early.
I don't think anyone would complain about us finding a sword early.
I would complain about that, though.
That's a little spooky. Getting a lamp, so now we can see in the dark, and that means that Dark Cross item is looking like something we might want to go chase and take all the way to the back of the escape sequence. Of course, we have a lot of Sphere 1 checks still, so we can probably find something to make that a little bit more comfortable.
Because of that, I almost am gonna put the dam off. Because I want to try to fish for a way to get into the Waterfall of Wishing. The Waterfall of Wishing in the Zora area can be a huge problem to route because of the item requirements for it. Oh, I got my favorite item!
Oh, everybody loves some high jump boots. That's going to make moving around in Super Metroid a lot more comfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Giving you that extra jump height every time you hit that button.
Oh, absolutely. There is a very good reason why I refer to SMR as High Jump Appreciation Simulator. Because you don't realize how important high jump is until you have it. And I'm actually going to check the race game blind because I don't have any hard progression in Link to the Past yet. The rule I like to follow is if I have one piece of hard Zelda progression, I will check this item, or I will check this item from the bottom. Otherwise, I will just do the race game blind. You know what? I'm actually going to take this big 20 because I'm very, very close to Zora Cash.
With 3 rupees away, the only thing that we'd be worried about is whether or not we see our flippers or a moon pearl to get into that aforementioned Waterfall of Wishing. You can, of course, sequence break Zora by doing a fake flipper, which we'll talk about in a moment here, but right now, I believe this is your dip into the front of the castle.
Correct. Given how early that we've seen Lamp plus can kill many enemies, I feel that this is probably a good idea to get these checks out of the way. One big thing that I am concerned about is first glove in the back of this game. The reason why I like to put the castle off until I have a glove is because you can very quickly check the back if you have a lift upgrade. But because we have a lamp and can kill many enemies, those locations in the back are considered available by the game's logic.
Yep, usually you want to be able to drop right by the sanctuary into that little graveyard hole that leads you to the sewers, but in this case, we're going to do it the long and hard way by going through the front as a standard game would intend. And if there's something back there, we're not going to want to see it.
And hopefully that guard in the bottom doesn't see me at the start, because ideally I would like to use that guard to do a death warp up to the front of the castle. But if he sees you right away, it can be very difficult to do that. Okay, so that changes things a little bit. Since we found that lift upgrade, I'm actually going to go to the bottom of the castle to pick up the item by Zelda, and then I'm going to actually save and quit and check the back of escape the way you usually do it in Randomizer.
That glove does put that in a little bit easier of a way, and then you can just do the back door into the Dark Cross item, as we call it, and that'll have everything out of the castle, unless you determine that for some reason they put the map in the sewers, because that can happen. Then you just give it a big old skip.
Correct. And we haven't seen the map yet either. I'm a big proponent of the next time you save and quit after finding your first strength upgrade, the very next thing you should do would be check the back of the castle. And that comes from experience in putting this location off, and then there's something there. So hopefully we have a map in Dark Cross. That would be really nice.
And we're now 1 rupee away from paying off the big
Indeed, we
fish.
have a map back there.
Ooh, that's excellent. We'd like to see that. So there's no reason to go through our little under-castle passage here. And now with the glove and the lamp, we can choose to go up the mountain. But I'm thinking we want to finish up Sphere 1 first. Is that right?
That is correct. I'm actually going to go to Eastern Palace first, even though it's a crystal, just because there's 5 to 6 Sphere 1 there are 5 to 6 locations available, and I'm still trying to fish for either a Moon Pearl or Flippers to check the waterfall with. Because those locations with the routing that I'm taking right now, those locations are very easily orphaned later on. I can also see where the green pendant is. Oh, lovely.
Oh, what are we looking at? Lovely, Skull Woods. So that fire rod that we were talking about earlier, if we see it, it might be pulling us in that direction to get 1 of 3 item checks out of Skull Woods, 2 within the dungeon itself, and 1 a little FedEx quest back to the Old Sage proper.
That is correct. I don't know how much I like seeing Pendant Skullwoods, though. It can be a decision to go into Pendant Skullwoods your first time through Dark World. And that can depend on what items we have. If we're closer to having everything we need, then you might consider skipping it. Especially if there's something in the back. But with it being a green pendant, if we find an early fire rod, then I might be apt to just get it out of the way.
That green pendant is the thing that you don't want to see on a dungeon that doesn't have a lot of requirements. Thieves' Town, for example, Skullwoods is another one. It basically says, hey, here's some extra incentive to go in here, and you never know whether or not you're going to waste your time. You could find something, you could find nothing.
Thankfully, even if we do, Skullwoods is pretty quick.
Alright, so this is the first dungeon in the Link to the Past. This is the Eastern Palace. To finish this dungeon, you would need a bow to get to the back all the way to fight Armos Knights. There are 3 item locations, so this is a pretty easy area to just miss on the early game if you're doing something else or chasing your progression. If you do that, you risk missing something you might need.
And my reasoning for coming here is because there are several Sphere 0 chests in here. And what we mean by Sphere 0 is these are the locations that you can get with no items at all. So they're most likely, of all the locations in the game, have something important. And the back of Eastern Palace is gated specifically by bow and bow only, and it's very, very unlikely that bow is available when you would come here early on. So I tend to route Eastern Palace around 2 trips at all. Oh, hey, a chest turn!
And a book, so that allows us to walk Independent Desert Palace if we so choose later on. We did see in that Stalfos room, of course, with all the items randomized, you have your prize pools randomized as well. Yes,
No, we have
the big key.
No, we have to check this because it could be an item.
Yep, it's either going to be on the boss here, or it's going to be in the big key chest. This location is in logic thanks to the lamp. So we're going to go through the motions. You can do this in the dark. You can do this with no weapon. It's not easy. That's honestly one of the first dark rooms you might learn if you're playing Leap to the Past, whether you're doing it without, just casually, or as a randomizer, or in the combo here, as we see.
I actually know how to do this particular dark room with no way to see at all. There's a pretty simple list of steps you can do to be able to navigate that, so it's generally speaking pretty easy. And it is the compass. So at this point, there will be an item up there. Now the question is, do we jump into desert? The fact that we've seen book this early is a sign that there might be something over there.
And this is where thinking about what the game is trying to tell you comes into play a little bit. You have a book. The book says one of 3 things. You have an item on your Bombos tablet, way out of access. You have an item on your Ether tablet, also out of access. The third one is you can enter Desert Palace, and if Desert happens to have some progression, this could be a pretty good break.
This also gives me a chance to check Agina, or as I like to call him, Dirty Agina. The reason why I call this guy Dirty Agina is because this guy is in Sphere 0, but he is way, way, way out of the way. Like, way out of the way.
He's so far out of the way that sometimes you come and check him early defensively because you want to never leave anything here at all, and you get 10 arrows. And sometimes you leave until he's absolutely the last thing you have, and he's a Rune Pearl. So getting him over here, just see an arrow expansion pack here, so now we can carry 40 of those sticks when we find them.
And that
getting all the way over here and being able to tackle desert potentially at the same time is actually pretty good.
That bomb on Agina is how I feel about him. I always throw a bomb at that guy.
Of course, we can also look at what is sitting up here in the desert, and today it's an E-Tank.
I'm probably going to grab that because we don't have any E-Tanks yet.
E-Tanks do put a couple things in logic on normal. For example, we don't have a can fly. When we do get a can fly or speed booster, the gauntlet check right out of the landing site is going to be looking to have either 2 E-Tanks or any number of E-Tanks and reserve tanks that lead up to 200 extra energy.
So the way I like to route desert is I like to check the map chest first, because if this has an item, then we know that we can't do anything without boots. Because there has to be a key of some kind, either on the map chest or on the torch, one of the two.
So with the small key, you come over here. If you don't find your big key, we're done here until later, because that pretty much eliminates it to being on the torch.
Correct.
And there's your compass.
Sweet.
And there you go. So that's going to tell you exactly what you need to see. With the hook shot, you can now talk about doing...
Actually, you know what? I'm actually going to go to Death Mountain now, because I realize there's a ton of that open.
I thought for sure that's where you were going.
I was thinking, I was in my head, I was thinking I was going to go do South Shore after Desert, but with this hook shot, I can get access to East Death Mountain, which is quite the honeypot. So now the meme of the seed is gonna be 1 hour plus mini Moldorm Cave. Clearly.
And that's the thing of finding a progressive item as you chase what you've already gotten, is now that the hook shot is in, we're talking about doing up the mountain and going into Sphere 2.
I mean,
Which means
it's still
those items...
It's still entirely possible that there could be something at Mini Moldorm, because that's a lot of stuff. But I'm mostly fishing for a way to get into Waterfall of Wishing before I go do anything else in that area. Just because, especially with the items I have now, that the Waterfall of Wishing could very well end up being mirror dependent later in the game. Oh, hi there. How are you doing today? I'm okay with that find.
Well, we were talking about wanting to get into Waterfall of Wishing, and now we can talk about how it works.
Well, I have a lot of checks to do up here first, but that will likely be the next place I go. Also, a very important check that a lot of people forget about is one of the portals is up here, and as long as you can open red doors, this location is available without Morph Ball. You just have to be very careful that you kill this, that Nova first, because otherwise you have to wait for him to go around, and that's an Ice Rod. At least we're not going to have an Ice Rod hunt today. Then the other thing that's very important to do while you're here is the Scout. The Crocomire Scout is very, very important.
Well, not today, it isn't. That's information that you're going to take advantage of for sure. Whether or no you're going to have to leave the Crocomire area in that direction, or you can just go back up into Bubble Mountain if you so choose. So now we're going to go up towards Spectacle Rock. You can look at one item and you can get the other here.
Well, the Crocomire Scout can also educate you on whether you should go up there or not. Like whether to go down to Croc at all. I'm actually gonna grab that E-Tank. Yeah, I'm very happy this is not going to turn out to an Ice Rod hunt, because Ice Rod hunts are some of the worst things.
Oh, Ice Rod Hunt is quite literally one of the worst ways you can handle having the end game. Oh boy.
Because other than Trinex, that Ice Rod can be anywhere. So now we'll head over to East Death Mountain. There's 8 checks over here. Hey, Deadrock, can you get out of my way, please? Before the boulders kill me? Thank you. That screen is one of the worst screens in the game, I swear.
Dead Rocks are one of the worst enemies in the game. They'll get in your way all over all parts of Lake Death Mountain. Now we're going into what we call here Paradox Cave, and it's very easy to see why we call it Paradox Cave, because you're going to start in the middle when it's all the way down here, and you're going to fall up. This puts you further up the mountain. Why that is, we'll never know.
Just need to be... I was being a little careful not to run into the bomb explosion, because that bomb explosion would kill me if I walked into it. Because I still don't have a ton of health right now. I should toss this first. But there's quite a lot of things up here.
Yeah, it's easy to understand why you would want to
well,
prioritize...
there's our Dark World access.
Is that a hammer? Or no, it's a cape.
Can you say Aga Seed? I still think it would be pretty prudent to check Mini Moldorm before going to Aga. Not because of the item logic, but because of... Oh, but there's another reason. I'm a little bit low on resources right now. I'm a little low on Zelda resources right now, so the Aga Tower climb wouldn't exactly be the easiest thing.
Yep, doing the Ega Tower climb on just a fighter sword is not a ton of fun.
Well, also there's the heart count. Oh, that red Tektite almost killed me. Yeah, those Tektites are not fun. They do 2 hearts of damage. If I had more resources, I would actually just go to Aga Tower straight away, but I don't think that's a good idea with what I have right now.
Not to mention, we still have all of South Shore and Zora. Zora being in logic because we have found a glove, by the way. So it's very possible that we have progression just waiting for us down in the other checks.
That's the precise reason why I'm headed down here first. But all in all, it's pretty likely that this is just going to wind up being an Agaseed. And since I have a hook shot, I can do this neat little clip to get this chest and open the dam in one trip. Like, using the hook shot, you can move through moving blocks. So while the push block is moving, if there's another place where you can latch onto, you can clip right through the block. Otherwise, if you don't have hookshot or mirror, you'll have to re-enter you'll have to re-enter the building to be able to do both things.
Yep, having that little hook clip is going to be just a little convenience there. You'll see it a couple more times later on because it becomes a lot more of a time save in a few other areas of this run.
And having a permanent weapon for Mini Moldorm Cave is so nice. Having to kill these guys with bombs is not fun. So there will be 5 checks here.
And yes, the NPC is a check. Don't forget to talk to them.
I think that's actually those are our first power bombs.
I believe you are right. And those are 10 power bombs, a pretty comfortable number if you want to talk about going into Brinstar.
Yeah, usually you want to try to... Well, you also want to try to avoid getting crabbed.
Yep, for some reason they decided that the crabs in both games, over here in Link to the Past, these sand crabs are going to do 2 hearts of damage to green mail. That's one heck of a pinch. Also, we'll see, again, the prize pool is being randomized, so is the stun prize, and much to our comfort, the stun prize today for this seed is hearts, so anytime you stun and kill an enemy, they will always drop a heart.
That'll be very important for, say, the Ganon's Tower climb. Because having to go just any late-game dungeon without a reliable way to heal can be very, very treacherous.
So you might often think about when you see people play the Link to the Past randomizer on its own, they might leave Ice Rod Cave. And today it's Ice Beam Cave for this seed.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
That does give you one thing you can do without a Morph Ball.
I think I'm actually going to go do that, because we have high jump boots and Ice Beam. That's a sign.
So earlier we talked about the only item you can get in Super Metroid being the item that's on the Morph Ball pedestal. Now we have a couple of different situations that we have open to us. But first, we see RaikouRider doing a fake flipper. And we're going to go ahead and swim without flippers because the game doesn't have the time to check for a splash. It just assumes you can swim.
Now, in the vanilla game, if you take damage while you're in the fake flipper state, it is a soft lock. In the randomizer, that soft lock has been removed. You will instead die, and if you have any fairies and bottles, they will be removed.
So right here, this man under the bridge is going to give us an item. Don't worry, it's not a bottle. It's just his animation. It's just another retank. So this item would be out of logic behind having specifically a pair of Zora's flippers.
Correct. Correct. The logic for what we mean by normal is is that no glitches are required in Link to the Past, and in Super Metroid, there are very few movement tricks that are required. We'll get into more of what is required on the Super Metroid side once we're actually able to do things in Super Metroid, though.
So now we're going to show why it was so important to get that Moon Pearl. Not only is it going to give us the ability to walk freely in the Dark World, you walk into this cave, you're still in a fake flipper state. For some reason, the game decides to look for a Moon Pearl. Assuming you have flippers, you can walk back in, and now you're at a water walk state.
Correct. This does not let us obtain the item on the Zora ledge, unfortunately, but it does let us clean out the Zora area nicely. Other than that, so we'll only have to return here if there is something on the ledge, and there is not. But do bear in mind that when you're water walking, you are still in the fake flipper state, so you need to be very careful not to take damage.
As mentioned earlier, if you take damage while in fake flipper, you just plain die. If you take damage when in water walk, it puts you into a flipper state where you just can't move. It's a soft block, and you'll have to save and quit where you stand.
Okay, nothing on King Zora, unfortunately. But we got everything out of the way. I am going to go back to Death Mountain and check that one location in Super Metroid. So this will transition nicely into checking the items in Blue Brinstar as well. Because whenever you transition to Super Metroid, it sets your save position back to your ship.
So what we're talking about logically here is with the high jump boots and the ice beam, the game may expect us to go up out of Norfair, through the Meridia Tube, and up Red Tower to a location called Alpha Power Bombs. In the vanilla speedrun of Super Metroid, that's where most runners in any percent are going to find their first Power Bomb pack. In this situation, it's where the game may have put a Morph Ball or progression.
And one thing I try to tell people as they are learning this randomizer is if you get very early access to a highly gated location, that can be a sign that there is something there.
And this, even just for information, going up this Red Tower climb into that area right beneath the landing site, it's one way unless it's a Morph Ball, because the door will gate by a Power Bomb on your way up. But in that situation, you're still talking about things being good for knowing whether or not you want to be incentivized to come back Red Tower later on. More skilled runners will just ignore that these rippers even exist. In this situation, you freeze them as platforms, the vanilla game intended, and up and through.
So now we're headed down to Alpha Power Bombs, which is the one item that we can reach without Morph Ball. The whole reason this even works is because there is a door that leads up to Criteria that has been changed for the randomizer into a blue door from a, unfortunately, just an energy tank. But I felt it was still worth checking that item.
So now with the high jump boots, the ceiling E-Tank in Blue Brinstar is accessible in logic, so we're probably going to go have a look at that. And if there's nothing down there, then you know what's left.
Now, in a race situation, you could consider just going to Aga first because it's likely that you'll have to anyway. But just because of the health situation in Link to the Past, I'm looking for something that'll help out with the tower climb. Comfort level is something very, very important to learn. Like, learn what is your comfort level and just know what you can execute. That's a huge part of the game. Is just figure out what it is you can execute, and don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Because taking an untimely game over is not going to help you win races at all.
And it rings true here with Super Metroid as well. Even if something is logically available, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go do it right then and there. As people who are in the community know, Phantom can very much be a run killer early on.
What are those?
And there's your Pegasus boots.
What are those? That doesn't actually give us...
Well, it gives you desert.
It doesn't.
And...
Yeah, it does let us finish desert. And
it does give you one other check you can make.
Yes, but I do need to actually return through the portal because unlike in Zelda, there's no save and quit option. So in Super Metroid, if you die, you lose any items that you have acquired since your last save. And the Pegasus boots are just a really nice item to have to begin with because they make Link run faster. For good players, they'll typically save 2 to 3 minutes per hour, I would say.
Yep, there's nothing more that you want in a speedrun than the ability to run fast.
Oh, speaking of going fast, doing this room fast is, like, impossible. And by impossible, I mean if you haven't practiced this room a ton, yeah. I joke that movement is impossible in Super Metroid.
And there's a couple different ways you can tackle this criteria climb. You can do that wall jump thing we saw RaikouRider just doing. You can, if you're really good at grabbing ledges with a diagonal, you can do that up the center. It's beautiful when it looks clean, but it's not easy.
Oh, no.
By any means.
Oh, no. There are a lot of different approaches for that room. And a lot of those approaches get thrown out the window when you have high jump. That was what was making climb so awkward, is very rarely do you have high jump for climb. So a lot of runners only learn how to do climb with no high jump boots. But because of those Pegasus boots, I am going to go back and finish Desert, just because there's also an energy tank on the ledge that I would like to get.
We already saw Desert as a pendant dungeon, giving us one major progressive item in the hookshot. There could be another one waiting behind the big chest where Landmall is proper.
If the item's in the big chest, I'm not going to bother with the boss. Just because it's a non-value pendant. But the primary motivation for coming here is to get the well, obviously the one item, but the energy tank as well. Because I am of the opinion that if you are comfortable with doing it, you should pick up every energy tank that you see until you find Varia Suit. Because if you can skip a Go Mode Varia situation, just by virtue of having tons and tons of energy, and you're comfortable doing that, go for it. Because the only thing that you logically need... Oh, nothing. Okay, at least we don't have to fight the boss. But I am going to go ahead and grab the energy tank, and then check the bomb rocks before I go head up the tower, and we go kill the wrinkly old wizard.
As I like to call it, you get to go have a math lesson. Agonometry 101.
Yep.
So the E-Tanks are going to be a very healthy situation, may comfort some of the bosses in Super Metroid, and of course, as mentioned previously, if you're not looking for Varia Suits so vehemently, you could decide to just burn your way through Norfair, and possibly pick up a sequence break and find your Varia along the way as a result of that.
Well, I was specifically referring to going down to Ridley's Lair without Varia.
Ah, good old RBO strategies. Yeah, fun stuff there.
Yeah, that's really difficult. Unfortunately, we struck out, but it does look like, as we previously thought, our progression is going to be in the Dark World, and we're not going to get much help. Even one more heart container would have been very helpful, but that's not going to be the case. We'll just have to go.
On the positive note, we do have an ice rod and a hook shot to make things a little bit easier up the climb, but only by so much.
The hook shot especially. Considering we have a heart stun prize, that'll help out quite a bit.
Having the stun item at all is going to make the combat, I don't want to say free, but it's free. So those of you familiar with the vanilla game know what this dungeon is. This is the castle tower. Aghanim 1 is gating our way into the Dark World here. And there will be an item waiting for us on the pyramid that we can go have a look at.
Here.
If it's not there, then we can talk about where to go next. And this room I actually consider to be one of the most uncomfortable rooms to be doing the tower climb initially.
Oh yes, this room is awful if you only have fighter sword.
It's really not much better even with Master Sword because they still take 3 spins.
Better
Two
than
spins,
eight.
excuse me.
Better than 8 spins. And this should get us, I believe with the hookshot, this will get us pretty close to full Dark World access.
Yep, the hookshot allows you to hook over the river into the west side of Dark World. And that's where things will start to open up pretty quick in this randomizer because you're going to have a lot to be able to look at.
Unfortunately, we do not have flippers, so that's going to make the catfish check a little bit annoying, and I'm kind of apt to put that off until after I've done some more checks. But we do have an easy way to get to the Palace of Darkness area, thankfully. I'm actually going to kill this guy for a heart because I'm running a little low. And this is why it's very important to check your stun prizes and just all your drops in general. Because it can wind up saving your life in situations such as this. Because imagine trying to do this tower climb on 5 hearts without having this nice stun prize.
And even if you're executing really well, these little pikes are pretty long, and if you get in the wrong spot, you're going to take a stab easy. Or, get shot by an arrow in the previous dark room. There are a lot of places where the tower ends up being more treacherous than it seems.
Oh, absolutely. Because in the vanilla game, you're expected to have 7 or 8 hearts before coming here.
7 or 8 hearts, and a Master Sword as well.
True.
Which, on paper, doesn't do too much in terms of your offensive prowess, but those Master Sword spins are going to do Tempered Sword damage, and that cuts out a lot of the problems with some of these enemies.
Not just that, but the Fighter Sword hitbox is smaller.
We're talking about an extra pixel or 2 of length when you have an upgraded sword. This thing's more like a butter knife than a sword here.
It makes a difference. It really does.
We might be able to see that difference later on when we go to, say, Palace of Darkness. It all depends on what the loadout tends to be when we get in that direction, and right now, the wizard has captured a princess. Let's go take care of the wizard.
I don't think going to Palace of Darkness right now is a very good idea, though. Oh yeah, chat, blue balls.
The Aghanim 1 fight is going to give you an energy ball on each first attack, a 50-50 chance of an energy ball or a blue ball attack on every second, third, and fourth attack, and every 5th attack is going to be him going up to the center top of the arena and giving us a little bit of Sith Lightning. So he can give you anywhere between 0 and 15 blue ball attacks. This one's looking like it might be 3 or 4.
We have 2 so far. There's your 3rd.
I stand corrected. Maybe it's going to be 6. Yeah, this is all RNG.
He is not playing nice. Also another difference between this and the standalone Link to the Past. I haven't followed the standalone Link to the Past in a while. Do you know if RNG is? Do you know if like Blue Ball RNG and Ganondorf RNG is still standardized?
I actually do not remember.
Because I know at one point it was. So that is our Dark World access. So we will have quite a bit to do here.
And just like the vanilla game, we do have that permanent portal in the front of Hyrule Castle's entrance that we can now use to get to and from the Dark World coming from Link's house. Now, we just saw a missile pack on the pyramid, so our options now are to go over to Palace of Darkness, where we may only be able to get one item, or it may give us a key and allow us to go straight to the back, or go up towards this area on the north side of the river, where you can either choose to go to Catfish now, or leave them for later, or there's going to be a spot where we're going to make use of that early hookshot and go see the rest of West Dark World.
Oh, thanks, Hinox. And this is another reason why I didn't want to come here right now, is because Dark World with my current loadout is incredibly dangerous. There are enemies here that do 2 and 3 hearts of damage, and with only 5 hearts, about that.
And that's where you see the hookshot is useful in some areas. Some enemies, such as the Hinox, do not get stunned by it. So a Hinox is going to throw bombs at you as long as you're in range. And of course, we saw there, the Hinox hug is quite deadly.
The Snapdragons, too, they do 3 hearts of damage. Most of your overworld enemies in Dark World will do 2 or 3 hearts of damage.
So even running into a Moblin, as you saw there, the spear is going to do half a heart of damage, or maybe 1, I forget. But walking into him, a Moblin hug on its own is already 2 hearts. And when you've only got 5 to work with, that's not saying a lot.
Oh no, definitely giving that Hinox a wide berth this time.
Looks like you decided to just walk north, which gives you a little bit of help.
That's also one of the reasons why I wasn't dashing around on any of the Hinox screens. Is specifically because of the situation, because of the health situation. Because you can get blindsided by one mid-dash and just die.
And there's nothing more demoralizing than walking off-screen into an exploding Hinox bomb as well. So it's very much a dangerous thing. If you have low HP, you don't want to be dashing around corners expecting to have
There
an
we
open
go.
passage. And what do we got in the chess game? But a morph ball. So this was absolutely the way the game intended us to go.
Yes, I'm going to be staying out of Thieves Town right now. Just because we have so much open in Metroid now. That it's pretty likely that we're going to find something that helps us with that. Oh, I need to do my Dark World map check.
Yep, we're talking about staying at a Thieves Town, and we don't know whether or not the game wants us to complete it, and it does look like Thieves Town is a crystal, and our other 5-6 on ice, and aforementioned pod, a pendant on the sea that we've rolled here. So I'm going to assume giving Thieves Town a wide berth until you have at least a little bit more offense or at least some more HP. We're going to go ahead and do the South Dark World loop all the way to...
Hammer is a big one, too.
Yes, the hammer. The hammer's going to give you a lot to do between getting around the Dark World, and it does also open up some things that you can check in both games.
Thieves Town Big Chest is the big thing that... Thieves Town Big Chest is the single worst location to orphan across both games. And if you're expected to go into Thieves Town without Hammer, it's a little bit less likely under the under some recent changes, just because you can have self-locking keys. But still, it never feels good to leave an item behind in the big chest.
So normally you might see runners going off in this direction on the way back from the house. Of course, not having a hammer, our Dark World access was around the world. And we're going to check Stumpy down to a little cave that has a bit of a history in both the Link to the Past randomizer and here.
Yes, so the reason why this next cave is called Hype Cave is because in version 18 of the Link to the Past randomizer, for whatever reason, this location was biased to always contain just the goods. Not so much anymore. Usually there's not a lot here, but it's 5 checks, so you just have to go for it.
When you talk about your density play, this is the one you think about early in your Dark World traversal. And today, it's looking a little dry.
Speed Booster!
Well, that's an item that we're probably not unhappy to see.
Oh no,
now
not
with
at all.
a Morph Ball, And a speed booster, RaikouRider is going to take his first dip into Super Metroid, and there is a lot open to us now.
Yes, the speed booster will let us actually complete Gauntlet, but because I only have 2 packs of power bombs, I'm gonna do it a little differently. Game, I was holding R. I did not intend to Shine Spark straight up, thank you. Because there's this...
Now you might... Go on.
This was specifically to check this, and then I can... And then if I had the right beams, unfortunately I don't. This I'm actually going to want to keep, though. So I don't foresee myself resetting after Gauntlet like I originally wanted to, just because of the energy situation.
Yep, we don't have the equipment to do what RaikouRider was thinking, so we're going to do this way.
Yeah, so I was bringing up specifically Gauntlet Spark.
You wanted the wraparound shot, no wave beam means no dice.
Exactly. Like if you do it, if you have the stuff to do it, it looks so cool.
Now we are playing on normal logic. Normal, of course, we mentioned earlier, is going to refer specifically to the kinds of movement, tricks, and accessibility that the Super Metroid side of this randomizer is looking for. In hard, the aforementioned Gauntlet Spark can be logically required to access specifically this location.
Correct. It can also cause the back of Gauntlet to be available with only 1 pack of power bombs, because this location in normal does require either usable morph ball bombs or 2 power bombs or screw attack.
And you see that acid just chewing away at the extra energy that we picked up along the way. That is why you want your safeties early on, because things like that, they really hurt.
Oh, absolutely. And that location in normal logic, this back of Gauntlet, that actually requires 2 energy tanks. For that specific reason. So, since my power bomb situation isn't the greatest, what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to be running back to my ship to grab some more power bombs. I love that spark too. That spark is sweet. There's a lot of really sweet shine sparks in this game.
Speed Booster is a very fun item to use in Super Metroid.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a lot of fun tricks and breaks you can make with it. So getting the power bombs here, that's going to make it a little bit more comfortable going through what we call the Brinstar loop, which we can choose to do from the top down into Retro Brin, as we've already had a look at 2 of the items there. There's 4 others we haven't... 5? 5 others we haven't had a look at yet.
Right.
Or we might go left.
Actually, you know what I'm going to do?
And loop it back around to the top.
I'm actually going to check... I'm going to check Bomb Chorizo 230 and... Bomb Chorizo 230, Old Mother Brain, and Criteria Shaft. And if there's nothing at Criteria Shaft... Actually, no, I'm not even going to check Old Mother Brain yet. I'm going to do that on the next trip. Because if there's nothing over here... Oh, this is so awkward with high jump.
So this is...
specifically referring to Alcatraz Escape. That's really awkward to do with high jump.
Yeah, Alcatraz Escape, probably one of the first things you might want to learn if you're playing through the vanilla game. It's a much faster way of getting out of the Bomb Chorizo area. Of course, at that point, you usually don't have the high jump boots, so it throws off your jump timing just a little bit here.
So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go check Criteria Shaft, and then if there's nothing there, I'm actually going to reset back to my ship, because I haven't really found anything since I saved.
Yeah, that's going to save you a little bit of backtracking time to go right back up the shaft here.
Not just backtracking time. That's not the primary motivation for checking this and resetting. The primary motivation is actually to save on power bombs. Because the Brinstar loop is very, very power bomb intensive.
There's only so many places up in pink and green Brinstar that you can pick up more power bombs. So only having a maximum of 10 is going to make it very strenuous to actually have all the power bombs you may need to make all the checks you want. This, of course, takes away from the necessity to fire 2 at the end of that route, so instead of just, doubling back and going back down, with 10 power bombs this time, RaikouRider's going to choose to go left.
Well, I've used other power bombs. No, I'm going to be going down to check Gold Mother Brain and Retrobrain, and then going left.
Ah, the meme route.
I'm a huge fan of meme route. Because it makes the only thing that it makes awkward is the Edikun area, but I just like this route because it's very, very easy to orphan construction zone this way. If you take the regular route, it's easy to orphan construction zone. There's our first bottle.
And you'll see in SMZ3, unlike the Link to the Past randomizer, your bottles are always going to appear empty. They won't be pre-filled with anything. In addition to that, both your Waterfall of Wishing and Pyramid Fairy will only grant you a green potion when you throw them in.
That change was made in the most recent version of the randomizer.
So we've already got the knowledge of the 2 items that were down here. But now that we have a Morph Ball, we can get everything else that the vanilla game would have intended. Going down here through the construction zone, and then going up the shaft over by where your second missile pack would normally be.
That's another jump that's really awkward with high jump. Oh man, look at all these E-tanks.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is between Speed Booster and Power Bombs getting up here to make 2 more checks. What do we call this room, RaikouRider?
This is called the Billy Mays room, because if you order some power bombs in the next 10 minutes, we'll throw in this Quake medallion absolutely free.
And that third power bomb pack, 15, is the magic number you want to have as a maximum for Brinstar Loop. It's going to make you comfortable getting most of the checks. Of course, we've already done half of them. So in this case, it's just for ease of comfort. Now, if we're talking about endgame, if you don't find Ice Beam, your Metroid Centurion will take 3 power bombs each, 15 the magic number, to be able to clear all 4 rooms without having to restock.
Absolutely. Just ammo management's king in this game. Both in the vanilla game and in the randomizer. Now, this room without a suit can be pretty dangerous because of those giant side hoppers. They do lots and lots and lots of damage.
They do. We have a pretty big health pool, so they're not as bad now, but you can see they are easily dispatched by a power bomb each if they take 2 hits.
So the reason why I'm doing this route is because I'm probably going to want to go direction next. Holy E-tanks.
Energy for everyone.
And you may also recall that there is another energy tank that the location of which is known. I'm surprised that worked. I thought I was too far right. So that trick skips a mini boss called Spore Spawn. It's a long fight. No one wants to do it.
Normally this would be where you find your first Super Missile Pack if you were playing regular Super Metroid. It's a randomized item here. Without having to fight Spore Spawn, it's considered in logic always. More power bombs. Not really a bad thing to find.
You know what's really silly? If I found Varia Suit, I would actually be comfortable going to Ridley like this.
Yeah, 40 supers, 7 E-tanks. I don't see why they wouldn't be comfortable doing that.
Right, this is...
Alright, so we're going to do
Nice.
a little trick in this room. And he's going to get it very early here.
So this location requires Wave Beam to get to, but with a well-placed Super Missile, you can you can clip the super missile beyond that gate. And also, I don't know why I did the setup that way, because I have high jump.
Yeah, usually you'll see jumping out the door if you don't have high jump boots. If you do, you can just stand flush against the wall, do a one-tap turn, jump, and in the right precise timing, launch a super that ignores the fact that there's a gate there, hits the switch on the other side. It's the only gate glitch that you can do from that side known in the game.
Correct.
Speed booster, of course, making moving through a lot of these rooms a lot more easy.
Well, I don't get to explain why learning the mock ball is so important, because we don't need to do it. We have speed booster.
Yes, if you're familiar with Super Metroid, there is a trick called the mock ball, which we're not going to see here because this puts this location into logic with the speed booster anyway. It basically allows you to retain your movement speed while in ball form. Oh, hello, Master Sword.
Yeah, that's nice. That'll help a lot with the Dark World dungeons. That will too. A lot of good stuff in here. So that location is one of the reasons why I recommend learning the mock ball if you learn any one trick for combo randomizer, just because routing back to this location later on is super awkward if you don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you'll generally see that people are going to check that whether they have the speed booster or not, because not only is it information. For example, if you see nothing, it might tell you, hey, we probably might not need speed booster for this seed. If you do happen to find all kinds of goodies, it gives you a leg up moving around the rest of both games. And get more energy.
You know,
with what happening here?
With all this energy that's showing up, I'm actually kind of hoping that Varia's suit doesn't turn up so I can show off a little bit. Although we'll see, because I haven't actually had to do that in a while. It's pretty rare that RBL Lore Norfair actually comes up in a seed. I think I've had it come up twice. But it would be nice to show. Speaking of nice things. Oh, that was actually a good short hop mock ball too. You need the extra speed from the mock ball to be able to get over from Edikun power bombs without falling into the shaft. So that's just a time saver.
Learning how to do mock ball in a few different areas allows you to save a lot of time running through this game. Oh,
Alright. Now the health is starting to show up. So I should be more comfortable doing Dark World stuff now. There we go.
Yeah, of course.
Now we're really starting to cruise now.
Yep, that gravity suit does a bunch of stuff.
It does. So that changes my routing a little bit. Instead of going back up Red Tower directly, I'm actually gonna go down Red Tower and go knock out Western Meridia, and then go to Wreck Ship. Because of the Mount Everest exit. The Mount Everest exit up to Wreck Ship is one of my favorite routes in Super Metroid.
So, given the choice now, with gravity and high jump boots, Wreck Ship is in the logical progression for the seed, so that, I believe you mentioned wanting to go up there already.
Wreck Ship has actually been in logic since we found Speed Booster.
Yeah, that's true as well.
So that's the reason why I was going the way I did, so that I could go up Red Tower, check the other items there. But now I'm actually going to be checking Red Tower after Wreck Ship. Or not after Wreck Ship, but after I'm done with the Meridia stuff. And actually, with Ice and Speed, I could go kill Dragon now if I wanted, but I'm not going to. I don't think that would be a very good idea with my current loadout. Because I don't really have a good way to fight him. The two preferred ways to fight Dragon are with Microwave and Grapple Beam, neither of which I have.
Yep, Dragon will take 20 supers to kill the old-fashioned ammo way. There is another way you can choose to fight that shrimp, of course, if you utilize Shine Sparking with the Speed Booster.
Those are difficult short charges, though.
Yeah, that's something you usually only see some of the more polished runners of the game do, but it is an option.
Because I think those are stutter 2s. But before I go into Meridia, I am gonna go ahead and just knock Kraid out. There's no reason not to.
Kraid is going to be the first boss you would fight in Super Metroid, and he's definitely going to look like it. You go in, you kill him, you get out, it's done. You don't ever have to come back to this area again.
And hopefully we don't take him to prom.
Yep.
We do not.
RaikouRider's going to go for what we call the Kraid Quick Kill, which allows you to skip the entire little sequence of Kraid accepting your invitation for a dance.
Hopefully. Because I don't have charge, so it's going to be a little harder.
Yeah, Charge Beam, because Kraid likes to just flail that one claw in front of his face, will actually freeze the claw in the downward position, allowing you to get some free shots right at his head.
Alright. Alright, can you be nice to me for a change, please, Kraid? I need to line up, too. There's a lineup you can do as well that makes it a little easier, and I think that's the correct pixel.
There's a few different ways to handle this. You might see them on the Super Metroid Speedrun Wiki. There's the Becky Twist. There's a bomb that you horizontally push yourself in the right spot.
Ah, just short.
Yep, and we see that it was just one missile short,
but
easily fixed.
That's too bad. No, Kraid, I don't need your 20 bucks.
That would be considered a bribe in this situation, I think.
At this point, I think it's just potion money. I don't think I jumped in time. That key hunter, one of those key hunters tends to get in the way if you don't jump through that door transition.
And of course, with the check of the C-Tank item, that's everything we need at the crate area. Again, won't have to come back here later. So the earlier you can do it and just get it out of the way, the better in this type of run. And not paying out anything today with that missing.
So now there are a few additional... there are 2 additional items that have opened up in Norfair, but I'm not interested in those right now. I'm just going to go straight through to Western Meridia. The only way that this route will cause a problem is if there are flippers at, say, Precious Missile, or anything that requires Dragon. Also, my movement through Meridia is going to be slightly awkward. Deciding if I want to get that heart container. Considering...
I thought for sure you were going to say something about the boomerang.
No, I'm not grabbing that.
The boomerangs they're nice to have for menuing in Link to the Past. They're not going to do anything more that the hookshot can't do, except for on a few certain enemies, in a few certain situations, so we'll probably give that a good old pass here.
But I think I am going to go ahead and grab this heart container, just only because I haven't found a defense upgrade yet. Generally, once you get to blue mail and 10 hearts, you shouldn't be going out of the way for heart containers. Again, it's all about your comfort level, like just establishing that comfort level. Also, when I was in this area, before going up to the Crab Supers item, I completely forgot to check Mama Turtle. Whoops. And of course I bonked, so I can't Shine Spark up there. Hopefully this item is nothing. I want that, but not that bad. Like, if I had done the movement properly to get into this room, then I would absolutely go get that heart container, but it's not gonna be worth going in and out of the room again. And besides, I think I'm on a fairly comfortable amount of health in Link to the Past at this point.
You've got, what, probably 8 or 9 hearts at this point? Yeah, and with Blue Mail, 8 or 9 hearts is, you know, it's kind of on the tight side, but you don't really need all too much.
It's enough. So now we'll be heading up to the beach and to the watering hole. Oh, that's really good. That's gonna make movement a lot easier.
And that is the space jump. It's the other logical item that the game would consider a can fly, as it allows you to go any amount of distance vertically. It's going to make moving through a lot of different areas not just easier, but also quicker.
And we actually have high jump boots too, which is so nice. Space jump is actually a real pain if you don't have high jump.
Having either item without the speed booster, or excuse me, with the speed booster, no high jump, space jump, and speed booster. Speed booster does this weird thing where, unless you're at a decent velocity, it actually reduces your jump height without high jump boots.
If you're holding dash, specifically if you're holding dash and you don't have high jump and you have speed booster, it reduces your jump height.
And that makes things very awkward, and that's one of the things Space Jump kind of mitigates, even though that in and of itself is still awkward.
How trolling has the seed been? It actually hasn't been too bad.
So here in good old Aqueduct, with the speed booster, we can get these 2 checks, just more power bombs, and on the right side, another pack of supers. You're never going to complain about finding too many supers early enough, because, you know, without finding a charge beam, you're going to want 60 to load up into the endgame boss of Super Metroid.
Alright, so the reason I'm saving here is to check the sand pits. These are the last things I'm going to be checking on this trip here. It's preferred to check this one first, because it makes it easier to check. Oh wait, I don't have grapple beam. But if you had grapple beam,
Twitch chat's favorite digging robot, if you had grapple beam, would be available on the right side.
and apparently I've been made aware of some technical issues, so I'm actually gonna try to fix that. Oh, I already did what I could. I already dropped it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I think my ISP is not liking me right now. Alright, let's try the right side.
So, since we missed it, was there anything in the left?
Nope.
Okay.
Left side is nothing. Right side is another bottle, but I don't need that.
Yeah, after you have one bottle, every bottle is a safety suggestion from that point.
Correct. So now you're
Simple fact of the matter is...
So now you're gonna see that route that I like, going up Mount Everest. specifically the Mount Everest escape.
Right, Mount Everest is going to put you at the top of Red Tower. With the space jump, it's a lot easier to do now. Otherwise, you would have had to do a couple of little other things just to get to this point.
Yeah,
now, the Red Tower climb that we did earlier allows you to get the one item. In this situation, we're going to be able to check all 3 locations that are at the top of Red Tower.
And I just like this route because a Red Tower can be a real pain to route otherwise. Oh, come on, don't get vile plumed.
So these enemies,
Ooh.
I believe we call them Samus Eaters. They do exactly what it says on the tin. Hold you in place for a good few seconds while you get chewed to pieces.
Okay, that's a red cane. That makes me a lot less worried about the whole Meyer situation. Because we might not have mentioned, one of the other portals takes us from Lower Norfair to the Misery Mire area, which means you might need to go there without a flute. So I think now we just go up to Wreck Ship and then probably back to Zelda. I am starting to get quite worried about... I'm starting to get quite worried about East Meridia, though.
Now, East Meridia doesn't have anywhere near the number of checks, but Dragon holds one. And, of course, the Plasma Beam item, which is not a kind check because of how out of the way it is.
It's 4 items.
Yep. Batuni tank, the precious missiles above Dragon, the space jump location behind Dragon, and Plasma.
That's an Ether Medallion.
And that's 2 medallions.
So now if you have space jump, you can actually check the item that's in the bottom of the maze before going down it, which saves not only time, but ammo. So even though we only have a power suit with 9 energy tanks, Phantoon is going to be pretty comfy.
Now, in the combo randomizer, the gravity suit does give you movement through fluids, and it reduces enemy damage by 3/4. So you'll take 25% of the damage that Phantoon would normally do. Those flames that might do 40, they're going to do 10.
Yeah, this fight's going to be pretty comfy. I'm still grabbing ammo, though, because until Charge Beam shows up, you still you still have to worry about ammo for Mother Brain, and Mother Brain requires a lot of ammo.
As we mentioned earlier, the magic number would be 60 super missiles. That's assuming that you have enough missiles to get through all of the Zebatites and blast around Mother Brain herself. In this situation, it's not looking too shabby. 80 missiles already, and we're still kind of early in the run.
Yeah, I would say at this point, once you find both Moon Pearl and Morph Ball especially, then you can safely say you've transitioned to the mid-game. Mid-game is, generally speaking, where you want to chase progression rather than going for raw volume. As long as you're not being egregiously inefficient. I missed with my super. So this is going to be an extra cycle, unfortunately. Missed with another super? Come on, Fanny.
So Phantoon, having 2,500 HP, takes extra damage from super missiles instead of 300 600. Of course, every missile is going to do 100 damage.
So what I was trying to do is like a mini Doppler that ends with a super missile. Unfortunately, I'm having a little bit of trouble with it.
So if you hit Phantoon with a super when it's already in the middle of trying to phase out, it ignores its enraged state?
No. No, you'll get a rage phase, but it's just a way to get a consistent 3 cycle. He is not cooperating today. He should be in super range now, though. He's awful red. Yep.
Expert dodge swoops, but, you know, one more super does the trick, and there it is.
Once we get the stuff for this dungeon, or rather, once we get the stuff, like the hammer especially, once we have hammer, these dungeons are going to start going down. But especially just once we start having stuff to do dungeons with.
And while we were comfortable on the power bomb count there, Phantoon dropped us a bunch, so having power bombs be the only way we can bomb jump at this point, getting a few drops there is actually rather convenient.
And there are plenty of places you can get power bombs in here. Like these, like those puffers, they'll drop power bombs. I forget what exactly those are called. It's one of the enemy names that actually changed from like Super Metroid to the Prime series.
Yep. In this game, they are called bulls, probably because they charge you as soon as you come into view, and they won't let it off unless you kill them.
So I'm actually going to keep grabbing these power bombs for purposes of crystal flashing, because this is one of those seeds where I might want to consider going down to Lower Norfair without Varia Suit. Especially if a couple more E-tanks pop up. With 3 crystal flashes, I'm comfortable going down to Lower Norfair without a Varia Suit with 12 tanks.
So right now we saw RaikouRider took a save. We're going to go into what is colloquially known as the Spiky Death Room, because the enemies and the obstacles in this room are, well, they're deadly.
So those spike platforms, if you get caught underneath those and you don't have a suit, they do 200 damage.
And if you think that's not enough, all those spikes that you're trying to dodge around if you're not trying to get hit by the platforms, without Varia, they do 60 damage.
No game, I don't need the penny.
And that's exactly why you save before you check it, because you don't want to have to go back through the Spiky Death Room. If it's not something you want to keep, just come right back here.
Oh no, that's such an important time saver.
So now we're going to go up into the attic of Wrecked Ship and be able to check everything else on the top side and where you would normally see the gravity suit.
Thankfully, with a large quantity of supers, this room isn't too bad.
And there are a lot of different ways you can handle opening this room. Some people opt to drop a power bomb because a double hit will kill these key hunters. A couple supers will take care of them as well. If you're really good with the speed booster, you can actually just go ahead and shine spark through from one side to the other.
I tell you what, though, the preferred method for that room, if you have it, is screw attack. Having screw attack for attic is so nice.
Having screw attack for basically anything is so nice. Now we'll see here, these worker robots are going to get pushed back every time you shoot them. But it's determined basically on your fire rate, so Raikou decided to pull out the missiles there because you can shoot them faster than you would be able to shoot your normal beam, and that allows them to get the heck out of dodge so you can go check the item.
Alright, what's Erection Preserve? Now, I can get this item because I have Speed Booster, I just prefer to check this because there's a worker robot in the way. Okay, that's fine. That's fine, I shouldn't need that.
And this next check is what we refer to as sky missiles. It's, well, it's a missile location in the sky, and it's actually missiles.
that location can be pretty awful to get to, depending on what items you have.
When you have nice movement items like your space jump, your speed booster, your high jump boots, it can be a little bit easier to get to. Otherwise, those platforms that move across the screen, they're called trippers. And you'll be taking a trip on one if you still need to get a look at that item and you have no way to get to it.
Alright, time to go bowling.
This is one of just a couple cutscenes that are in Super Metroid. See, we call it bowling because he's going to walk down the alley. He's got good form. And now he's about to crash through the alley floor. And wouldn't you know it, someone's got to teach this guy how to bowl. Always seems to get gutter balls for some reason.
So there's just 2 more things in here.
And here's the worker robots that Raikou was talking about. They're kind of annoying. They're a little in the way. You can look at this item if you don't want it. You just turn away. You see another piece of art. Bye.
Alright, so medallions aren't going to be an issue anymore. So there were a couple medallions in here, in this area.
Alright, Ether on the Mote Missile and Bombos on the Gravity Suit. So getting into Misery Mire and Turtle Rock won't be an issue when we can get to the entrances. Right now, it's looking like that might be a tallish order according to the logic, but there's still plenty of stuff to do. I heard that contemplative
Yeah, I have a decision to make.
Yeah, in this item set, you've got a number of choices you can make. You can finish up Meridia and just get those 4 checks, or since you picked up a little bit more safety, you can start taking your dive into some Dark World dungeons here.
As much as I don't like it, I think I'm just gonna do Thieves Town without a hammer. It's not the enemy difficulty that's the issue, it's the fact that I don't have a hammer. Because there's that one chest that is gonna be a problem otherwise, but I think the upper, like the North Dark World in general, is going to be the best play. So I think what I'm going to do is go to Thieves Town. I don't know. This is so awkward. This is one of the problems with the Agaseeds, is when you don't get good Dark World access. Just navigation in general can be a huge pain.
Yeah, getting around into the Dark World is a lot easier in this situation if he was able to find your second progressive glove for the Titansmiths, be able to lift that rock that's right outside of Kakariko Village and use the portal that way. Or the hammer, which also ends up being both a dungeon unlocker and a pretty decent combat option if you don't happen to have a decent sword.
I don't think I can stay out of Palace of Darkness anymore. I really don't want to come here, but I don't think I can stay out anymore.
So we're going up the logic in this case into Palace of Darkness, which may have an item in that first chest. It might not be important. It might be exactly what we need. And if it's a key, then the rest of the dungeon, except for the bow-locked side, will be open for you to check.
This also might be a case where I may actually be going back from Catfish. I know I've been on record for saying that you should always route Catfish around a save and quit, but I'm wrong. I need to change that to almost always, because this is one of those situations where it might actually be beneficial to do it, just because your only Dark World access is through Aga Tower. And this is what happens when you have Hammer and Titansmiths late. Alright. The other issue with coming into Palace of Darkness right now is we also have no mirror. And having the mirror in Palace of Darkness saves a ton of time. When you use the mirror in a dungeon, it will take you back to the entrance to the dungeon, which in this particular dungeon saves a lot of time.
Without a mirror, Palace of Darkness actually ends up being one of the more difficult dungeons to try to route a traversal through, just because going back to the front is nowhere near as convenient as you might think it would be.
Okay. And this is one of those cases, too.
Yeah, because now, without a bow, we're not going to be able to go get those 2 checks on the right side, so in this situation, we're going to get this key in the basement here, and then we have to take the portal and go back up the stairs and around to the front. A mirror would mitigate all of this extra movement.
Exactly, and I think I'm actually going to go straight to the back right now and not check that center chest, because since we already found an item in the front, that center chest is very likely to be a key. There have to be 4 small keys at least in the front of Palace of Darkness. So it is very likely that the remainder of the chests in the front are keys.
Well, that means we're going to have at least 1 key down here. The other thing you need to be wary of is the potential location of the big key.
Correct.
Which it can show up in Dark Maze, it can be locked on the right side, it can be in its vanilla location behind a key.
That's possible, but there's a pretty high probability that the vanilla big key chest is just a small key, given what we've seen. Just the routing through this dungeon in general, and even the logic itself behind where items can go in this dungeon is just an absolute mess.
So you'll see we just burned our last key to get into the Dark Maze, and the Dark Maze will never have a key. Of course, the big key is in here, so that basically confirms the suspicion that all the other keys are in the front.
Correct. And just hopefully we don't have to come back here at all.
It's the risk you make with every pendant dungeon dip.
Oh,
You may or
look
may
at
not
that.
actually find anything.
That's not required, but that's a great find.
Yes, it is. That is the single highest permanent damage output increase you can get for Super Metroid right there. Plasma Beam on its own merits is so good to have.
I would say that is the only... If Plasma Beam is on Lumberjack, that might be the only non-required item that I would get off Lumberjack. It saves that much time.
There's a good number of enemies in Super Metroid that are also only damageable with the Plasma Beam. So talking about, for example, the Plasma Beam location, now that's logically open to us once we defeat Dragon.
That's another reason why I was holding off on that, because I have no way to obtain that item. Not unless you want to try to kill Plasma Pirates with Speed Booster, which is not fun.
Yep, but now that we have Plasma, we can absolutely go ahead and clean up that room.
So that gives me another reason to kind of go back there, and if that Plasma Beam winds up being required, oh man. I should have asked somebody else to roll this.
Is that pretty much the only situation in which it would be?
I really should have asked somebody else to roll a seed, because I rolled this one.
The thing that I'm noticing with rolling these seeds, whether it's normal or hard, it doesn't matter who rolls. This randomizer can find new and exciting ways to be absolutely rude.
Didn't we just have a discussion about gravity and pendant mire? Oh, that's rude too.
Oh boy, Silver Arrow's waiting at Catfish. Probably the single worst location to have to dip into and come back out.
Yeah, the problem is the lack of convenient Dark World access. Like, there's so much missing. Where is this bottleneck? Like, we're getting bottlenecked somewhere by some silly location. I wouldn't be surprised at this point if it's past Dragon. I just don't have a convenient way to get there right now. That's what's stopping me.
So if you are late joining us, this is a randomizer compiling both Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo and A Link to the Past from the Legend of Zelda series, mashing the two games together, randomizing all the items between both worlds, giving you one heck of a puzzle to solve. Oh my goodness.
I had the dead read on this and I just didn't act. Remember when we found that cape? I was thinking bumper ledge and I just didn't do it.
Oh boy, there's the various suit locked behind a cape. This is also a location that is specifically locked behind a cape.
The fact that this cape showed up should have tipped me off if there was something here.
And what that does is it gives you everything in Super Metroid to this point. And the displeasure is on the screen.
Yeah, I am not happy about that. I should have had that a long time ago. So now all of Norfair is open.
And when he says all of Norfair, he means all of Norfair, upper and lower. The Mire area is also accessible as a result of that, due to the portal above the screw attack item that normally would be an energy refill.
So the way I'm going to access it is actually through the Ice Beam area. Just because of the items I have. And I need to do these checks anyway. A little disappointing I won't be able to do RBO strats, but generally you only want to go for RBO strats in this if the only thing you need left to complete the game is Varia. Oh hey, that's convenient.
Well, Flute's a nice item to find.
I
Doesn't do anywhere near as much, but it does allow you to get around very quickly.
Well, the thing is, now I don't have to worry about. Well, it wouldn't matter anyway because I can complete Mire unconditionally.
So I'm going to assume we're just going to give Crocomire a pass here. In
for now.
Other situations, Crocomire might be more attractive, especially with this item set. In the Super Metroid Zelda 3 combo randomizer, because there are so many more item locations and he only has a few items, you kind of want to give Croc a little bit of a wide berth until you're literally running out of places to check.
I like to value Crocomire at Crocomire when you've already scouted the back and it's nothing. I like to value that at roughly the same value as like Pendant Thieves. Because I like to think of Crocomire as a pendant dungeon. So, you know what? I am gonna go ahead and just save here because I don't want to have to fight Gold Chorizo if I don't need to.
So with Space Jump, Raikou's going to be able to go down and not just look at, but also collect an item that we call in the SMZ3 community as Showcase Showdown.
Yeah, the reason why it's called Showcase Showdown is because if you need to get that item, there's crumble blocks in front of it, and if you mess up the jump, you have to go all the way around Lower Norfair to try again.
Not only that, but if you look at it on the opposite side, as we're about to do here, with what we call a green gate glitch, you won't be able to get it unless you go back through the vanilla path with your space jump, because it requires space jump by the game's programming to get to.
If I had Charge Beam, then I would fight G. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to get that again. Well, there's one of those Dragon items I was talking about. Well, we're fighting Golden Chorizo. Yeah, it was just that Varia suit. It was that Varia suit at Bumper Ledge that got me. I should have had that a long time ago. That's so frustrating.
Bumper Ledge is not a kind location to have to go back to. Now, if he didn't have a cape, looking at it probably would have been just as, a little frustrating if you're looking for something like the Varia suit in that particular location. Then you're on a wild goose chase looking for a cape. In this case, the cape, requiring us to do Aghanim to get to the Dark World in the first place, also kind of being a tell.
Yeah, that was 100% a mistake on my part. Not checking bumper ledge when I was up there the first time. 100% a mistake.
You want to feel bad? I once left an ice rod there. Go all the way through Turtle Rock and go, what the heck did I miss? Oh, it's on Bumper Ledge. Great.
And I'd like to say I don't make routing mistakes like that very often, but that's a rough one. Because at this point, if this was a weekly race, finding Varia there at an hour and a half, I would feel extremely behind.
So picking up these Titans mitts at Gold Chorizo means we're going to have to fight this boss.
Correct.
Normally you can give him a pass if you don't see anything you need in this room.
Another reason I wanted to avoid fighting this guy is because of the super situation. Because now I'm going to need to farm... I'm going to need to farm pre-Ridley because I don't have charge beam.
Luckily, the next room has a convenient placed grapple beam that you can use to make that farming a little bit less painful.
Well, I can also get super missiles back from the Rippers in the next room, which is probably more reliable than farming. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna just get Meyer out of the way. Maybe not without a bow. I'm gonna check the Meyer area stuff though, because I'm on green and 10, which is kind of dangerous for Meyer. So, So I think I'm actually going to hold off, especially with Mitts and Flute. I can get in there whenever I want. Actually, no. With half magic and cape, I'm fine.
Yeah, that Tempered Sword is going to be possibly the single biggest damage boost that you can permanently get outside of the bow with silvers for specifically this dungeon.
And the Tempered Sword changes things a ton. Because this will actually give me a good option for defeating Vitreous. Specifically because I have half magic. If I didn't have half magic, I wouldn't be coming in here. Well, also sword beams are super, super nice for this room.
This first major room in Meyer, a sword beam kills everything except the Beamos, because the Beamos can't die. So, a few swift dodges of those little laser sights, and voila, sword beams took care of all the whiz ropes.
It makes that room really, really fast. If you don't have sword beams for that room, it can be a huge pain clearing everything out.
The other thing that might be nice if you don't have sword beams for that room would be a fire rod. Of course, they like to phase in and out, so you have to time all your shots specifically.
Well, not just that, but even with half magic, using fire rod to clear that entire room is extremely magic intensive, and you use a lot of magic in this dungeon.
Yeah, fire rod without half magic, you only get 8 shots, so it's really up to the player how willing they're going to be in terms of,
Okay.
spending all of that.
Okay, we found one item on the left, so I'm actually going to be skipping cutscene chest. Assuming we find a big key. Because my strategy with Meyer is if you have one item and a big key, then you just skip left side. Oh, I have powder. I should use it.
It's that little bubble, that anti-fairy that's bouncing around the room. If you sprinkle it with some fairy dust, it turns into a fairy. Imagine that.
It's the single best safety in the game.
There's also some situations you might see where those little yellow swirling Bonnie beams could also be turned into a fairy as long as they are still on their spawn point and not moving.
So that's one strategy I like to employ with this dungeon is if you find one item in the right side of Mire, then it's usually a good idea to try to skip the cutscene chest. But unfortunately, we aren't going to be able to do that because our big key is in there.
Yeah, Mire has 3 chest keys in it, and to finish the dungeon, the keys are nice to make routing a little bit easier, but if you know your way around, you never really need them. So finding all 3 keys before the big key with only 1 chest left means we're having to go through this cutscene chest. And again, not having the fire rod, we'll have to light all these torches with the lamp. That's a little bit more time intensive.
What I actually like to do for this room is I like to pre-push all the blocks before I start lighting torches. Because the torch timer is kind of tight when you don't have fire rod.
And of course, as you see, these Wizros will just pop in out of nowhere and be a little bit of a pain in the side there. But as soon as you light the 4th torch, as long as the other 3 torches are already lit, you get to sit here for about 15 seconds while the wall in the next room pushes over.
It sure feels like a lot more than that, though. Even though this is the same length as the one in Palace of Darkness, it feels like it's longer just because you can't see it.
Timed it out to like 17 seconds or so. The one in Palace of Darkness, when you shoot the statue with the bow, is the same length. And both of them feel like an eternity when you're just sitting there and the screen's kind of going brrr.
Yep.
So we have one other location now where we have the big key to check to see if there's an item in here, and that is the big chest. Now going back to it from either direction, it's not convenient, but you don't want to leave that item.
Oh no, because you don't want to have to do the wizard room again.
Now the hookshot makes getting over here with that block a lot easier. Then you just dash straight up, and we see that the last item is on Vitreous. Now, this is going to be tough. This is kind of, green mail and 10 hearts. Vitreous is going to do a ton of damage.
I'm not concerned.
Both with its lightning attack and the eyeballs, but we're not worried about that because we have a cape, so we get to do some fun strategies here that Raiko is going to show us in just a moment.
This Vitreous strat's so sick. This is one of my favorite boss kills in the game. I'm also very, very grateful that I have a lamp. If I did not have a lamp, I would not be going in this dungeon right now. Because doing this room in the dark is so difficult.
One of the best ways you can get better at the game is learning these dark rooms, and this one is by far the hardest dark room that anyone can learn to do in Link to the Past.
Oh, easily. It's such a pain to learn. There are setups you can use to be able to put the block on there, but there's not really a good setup for figuring out how to lift the pod. You just kind of have to do it by feel.
So normally Vitreous would be quite a threat here because it is the second to last Crystal Dungeon boss in the game. It's late game, it packs quite a punch. The cape is going to take care of all of that. And Raiko, let's show him how it's done.
You can do that with Master Sword as well, but to do it with Master Sword, you need half magic.
As you see, it took exactly half the magic meter there. Now this is going to be a good...
I got him in the sweet
12 slashes.
I got him in the sweet spot, too.
He's in exactly where you want him to be. He'll bounce forward, you just bounce him back. Enough sword slashes, and that's Vitreous, everybody.
Damn, I don't need any more E-tanks.
And that's a crystal dungeon that you do not have to come back to later on.
Exactly. The only concern is Checkerboard Cave. Checkerboard Cave is one of the reasons that I don't like late mirror seeds. Because a late mirror will open up typically a bunch of one-off locations. But where's the hammer? I would really like to know where this hammer is.
So chat was asking, harder than Dark Aghanim Tower?
No.
Actually, I mean, there's almost never a situation where you will ever have to go up to Dark Aghanim Tower. Either the game's going to force you a lamp, or you're going to find alternate ways to do Dark World access.
If you want to see a seed where Dark Agate Tower was beneficial, go watch the SMZ3 race from SNES Superstars last year. Maniacal and I did an SMZ3 normal logic race for SNES Superstars, and that race was a rare seed where that would be helpful.
So is this the time where I ask you where you found what you found on the pyramid?
It wasn't pyramid. It was the reason why. The reason why is because there was a glove on Lumberjack.
Oh no!
So
that's a place for that.
So we had to make the decision. We had to make and it gave you everything to get up there early except for lamp. So we had to make the decision on whether we wanted to do Dark Agate Tower, and both of us tried. I won't say anything more about the race because it was a really good race to watch too.
So this room is a little bit of a pain without charge beam. These golden space pirates, the little metal pirates as we called them, they have 900 HP. And they do not take damage to a regular beam attack. You have to have charge.
I mean, there is a very good reason why this is called the worst room in the game. If you go on the Super Metroid speedrunning wiki, that room is actually called the worst room in the game.
If you're playing randomizers, you understand it more than most, because there's a lot of very not nice techniques that you can learn to get through that room if you happen to be missing screw attack or space jump, or even more fall bombs require a very tight infinite bomb jump. Luckily in this situation, the game gave us space jump.
Yeah,
so we made it easy.
That room logically requires Genfly. There's a delayed wall jump you can do that requires high jump boots. You can do that wall jump without high jump boots, but it's pixel perfect, frame perfect.
So we're going to go straight down here. And again, these key hunters, they are painful, and they ignore most forms of damage that aren't plasma or space or an ice or wave.
I think it specifically looks for wave or plasma, like charge wave or plasma.
I mean, ice alone will damage them, but ice is a damage modifier. They take half damage from ice beam combos, unless you have plasma. So if you're looking to kill red key hunters, it might take a while.
We're getting pretty good on ammo now, too. One more super missile pack and we'll be good.
So in a lot of situations, you're going to want to do Ridley as early as you can if you're comfortable with the equipment that you have, because you don't know if you're going to be able to come back. In this case, we found the flute, we found the mitts down here, so we can come back later, but there's still no reason to put it off. And on your way out, you'll be able to check everything else in Upper Norfair, Bubble Mountain, Crocomire if you choose to go down in that direction. So this really just routes out as an efficient and clean way of getting all of your item locations in Norfair.
Yes, generally speaking, if possible, you want to try to route Super Metroid from bottom to top as much as possible. So what am I doing? I have Grapple Beam.
So if you were not casually familiar, the Grapple Beam also functions to be able to pick up drops that the enemies leave for you, which makes this farm much more comfortable than it would have been without.
Ye old RBO farm. Okay, so Ridley is weak to super missiles, and you have way more super missiles typically in Randomizer than you would in Vanilla, so it makes this fight nice and comfy.
Ridley with 18,000 HP sounds like a lot, but when he takes 600 damage from each super, it only takes 30 to dispatch him. There are a lot of ways you can manipulate his AI to just load him up with ammo while he's trying to attack you.
Nice pogo.
That pogo is exactly what you're looking for. He will get stuck on the left wall, not be able to touch you, and you can just... Oh, yeah.
That was a good fight. Very happy with that fight. So, I hear Hammer on Ridley is a meme.
There's a lot of things Ridley can have that would be kind of rude here. That is not rude. That's just extraneous.
It's nice to have, though. There are a lot of tricks you can do with Blue Cane.
Yeah, the Blue Cane's a pretty nice item. Not to mention, it's one of those items that can grant you invincibility. So when you're talking about a fight like Blind in Thieves Town, if you have half magic Blue Cane, you literally don't do anything except chase him around the arena. Exactly.
It makes Blind super easy. But still, where's this hammer at? Like, that's the big thing that's holding us up right now, is hammer.
If it doesn't show up here, then I'm starting to worry exactly what you were thinking earlier, that you're going to have to go back into Meridia.
Well, with the Scrapple Beam, I don't think there's a reason not to go to Meridia after we're done here. Because it's because flippers haven't shown up yet. Because typically the way you want to route the Dragon side of Meridia is you want to wait until you find flippers so that you can take the southeast dark portal. But we have no way to get there right now. There's actually no place, to my knowledge, there's no place in the dark world that you can fake flipper from to get over there.
So these last few locations down here, typically you want to leave them until you're done with Ridley, because then you can just grab them all on the way out. Now that's a spot for Screw Attack.
That would have been nice to have like 5 seconds ago.
Screw Attack, one of the most prolific items in the Super Metroid item pool, and also in the Metroid community as its own right, allows you to literally just jump through any enemy, for the most part, and kill them in one shot.
It might have actually been a bad idea to pick up that Screw Attack, just because I'm going to have to turn it off later. And it doesn't really help me for too much more of what I want to do. It'll help with the Three Musketeers for sure, but other than that, it's not actually that helpful.
Yeah, you generally want to find your Screw Attack before you're in Lower Norfair, otherwise it's a convenience item and not much of a time save at all.
It definitely helps with these guys, though. Those guys are a pain.
Yeah, they'll swoop down. You can actually get them to come down that one block and ruin your day if you're not very well equipped.
I missed the mock ball. If I find Charge Beam soon, I might actually consider going down to Crockmire.
Talking about Plasma being that single biggest permanent upgrade, Charge Beam being another one, and with the addition of that X-ray scope, yeah, that's an item you want to see if you already have Plasma.
Yeah, if we find Charge, then we might have some microwave shrimp.
Some of the most fun strategies to utilize with the Plasma Beam with a charge is using that X-ray scope to make some of these bosses a lot easier than they seem.
Oh, it would be great. It would be great if we can actually make microwave strats happen. Microwaving Dragon is one of my favorite things to do in Randomizer, because you can't actually do that in vanilla.
Now, if you're familiar with this randomizer, the charge beam used to be a requirement for Ridley. As of version 11, that was removed, so it can now be anywhere, including Ganon's tower. There's no guarantee you're going to find it. And if you do, you're happy to see it.
That's fine, too.
Well then, that's a fun item to be picking up now, isn't it?
No, I think Spring Ball's fine. I think people really underestimate the value of just having that extra movement option. Running out of locations. I might even head down to Croc anyway, because there's a lot out there we still need. And the mitts didn't actually open up a ton. It gave us, like, the biggest target I have right now is, like, East Death Mountain, Dark World. Oh, there are flippers. Okay, I'm not as concerned about Meridia now. Because I can get there through the portal now. And I have... Well, I still can't get into Swamp Palace because I don't have the mirror. But... given how many things we have left for Go Mode, I don't know if we can ignore it. Because we still need Fire Rod, we still need Bow, we still need Mirror, and we still need Hammer. I think there's too many things missing. There's just too many things missing to ignore Croc, I think. When you start to transition from the mid-game to the late game, you also have to think about that, too. Is how many items do you have left? How many items that you have left for Go Mode can often determine how many items you have left for Go Mode can determine how thorough you need to be. So I think now we have to go down here. Because when are you going to come back here? When are you going to come back to Croc? Thankfully, with this much ammo, Croc isn't too bad. I should actually stop picking up these E-tanks. I don't need this many. No, Hammer can't be in Swamp yet, not until we find Mirror. Nothing. Alright, so for these, before I go check these next 3 locations, I am going to take a save here, because coming back from Grapple Beam location is very time-consuming. Some players prefer to save at the save station above Crocomire, but the 3 items versus 5... I think on average it's better to save there. So now we do Lava Tide, which has a beam upgrade I don't need. You can't have Spacer and Plasma at the same time, unfortunately. So that's not actually going to help me. So now we shall see what is in the pantry. Too far left. Or too far right, rather. Not far enough left. So pantry is just a garbage can. And survey says... Oh, how about that? How about that? That's a rude spot for that. There's a bow at Grapple Beam. How does that go? How does that go? Always bet on Croc? So that's a required item, if only for Eastern Palace. So now I can check the rest of High Jump Cave. And then from there, probably just go clear out Dragon. But there are 2 more checks over here before we clear out the rest of Meridia. So nothing else there. Actually, come to think of it, this will be our best chance to check X-Ray. Because X-Ray has been available since we got Space Jump, which is, what, I think about an hour ago. And I don't really see a better opportunity to check this, and our next target is going to be East Dark Death Mountain. Movement's impossible in this game, I swear. Oh yes, if you want to play this yourself and see all of the sprites that are currently loaded onto the website, the website for the randomizer is sanus.link. That's if you want to play this yourself. The website is sanus.link. So the logic for this for the X-ray item is access to the room plus either grapple beam or space jump. There are some clever damage boosts and bomb jumps you can do to get up to this item out of logic, but they're pretty dangerous. What do we have here? Just power bombs. And that's the reason why I saved at Business Center. So now we're going to head back to Zelda and check out Dark Death Mountain East. Thanks, Razor. So if this were a race, I would be pretty concerned about my position, because there's no hammer and no mirror that's been found, and we're over 2 hours in. It also feels really weird that I can't get into Hera yet. So now we'll do Super Bunny and Hookshot Caves. Also, I don't know why I'm going this way. There's no reason to go this way. And it looks like we do have Zeruvian back.
Yeah, sorry about that, RaikouRider. And folks,
The only thing that you missed was always bet on Croc.
ooh, what did Crockemeyer have today?
The grapple beam location had the bow.
That is definitely a required item to talk about when we have to face off against Armos Knights here. And already having silvers, that's a joke. Alright, so I did hear you saying getting to Hera right now is a tall order.
Getting to Hera right now is impossible.
So Hookshot Cave, possibly with the goods here, would be very nice. Of course, it's just a munitions cave, it looks like. So
Yeah,
perhaps not.
Just munitions cave. I'm actually going to be heading to... Oh, I don't have hammer. Wow.
You were thinking about Spike Cave for a moment there?
Yeah, and then I realized I didn't have hammer. This is so awkward.
This is one heck of an item set.
Alright, I'm just going to go knock out Meridian now.
Yeah, when you get caught up in a group of items such as this, you're going to find the hammer at some point. It's going to be hard required to finish the seed. You're going to find the mirror at some point, because that's hard required to enter Swamp Palace.
Those are the
either
big
one of those
things.
gets you to Tower of Hera.
Those are the big things that we're missing, are hammer and mirror. So I think what I'm going to do is clear out... I'm going to clear out Meridia. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get really scared that hammer might be an Ice Palace.
Hammerless Ice Palace would be absolutely disgusting.
Well, it's actually not quite as bad, because we do have the Red Cane.
Get to show off one of the community's favorite new glitches.
Oh yeah, Icebreaker is amazing. It's still pretty bad though because of the key situation. Because I won't actually be able to go to the bottom of the dungeon with the Icebreaker route, just because it requires you to steal a key that's hammer locked.
Yeah, so at that point you're at the mercy of the key logic for the dungeon. If you don't find a key, then the Icebreaker doesn't actually end up yielding you much.
Oh no, not at all. But I still think that's the play.
We'll also note here, Ice Palace and Eastern are the 5-6 crystals.
That means I was also a little bit scared of hammer being a pyramid fairy until I found out about 5-6. Because Ice Palace is a 5-6 crystal, hammer can't be a pyramid fairy.
Now, what can be a pyramid fairy would be something such as the mirror.
Yeah, mirror can absolutely be there. Okay, that's enough of this. As soon as I'm done with this run, I'm going online and ordering a new controller. Because I'm having way too much trouble with my shoulder buttons. And shoulder buttons are kind of important for this game because they're usually your angle up, angle down buttons. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get grabbed by Dragon so that I can electrocute her. This is called frying the shrimp. It requires grapple beam.
by breaking these turrets on the walls, they are now the functionally equivalent to an electrical socket.
Hey,
All it needs is something to plug them in.
hey, Dragon, can you stop spanking me, please? Alright, so that's our golden 4. But yes, to play this game, you will need images of the Japanese version of the Japanese 1.0 version of Link to the Past, and an image of Super Metroid as well. I'm gonna grab this heart because we still haven't found males. Calling AOL.
In this case, you don't have mail.
I do not have mail. That's why I was calling them, because I need mail.
So we're gonna take the save, because chances are that plasma item, while it may be required, it may not be. And you wouldn't want to have to go ahead and backtrack all the way to a portal or flush yourself down the bottom of Meridia.
Actually, I am gonna have to go down the toilet. I'm gonna have to go down the toilet anyway. Because because of Shack Tool, since we have Grapple Beam. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna check Shack Tool first, because the
Yeah, I'm seeing, and that actually works out a little better too, because Shack Tool itself is a big old time gap. He's gonna, he takes his time to dig out that tunnel. So you do that, and then you go up to Plasma, and then if you find nothing, that save allows you to go right back to the Dark Ice Rod area.
Exactly. So then I can just go up the pipe, up the pipe to Plasma. People don't It's not the green Meridia pipe is not that useful in Randomizer most of the time, but when it's helpful, it's really helpful.
What do you think's going to be waiting for you at the Spring Ball location today?
Hammer. Because it just feels like being one of those seeds, clearly. Or it could just be because I rolled it, and I apparently have a history of not rolling good seeds. That was almost too late. So now we just sit back and let Shack Tool do his thing.
Yeah, functionally, this is a cutscene. It's not, because you still have control of Samus, and you can wander around the room, walk into Shack Tool, and take some damage. Just don't shoot him.
There's nothing.
You need him to open this tunnel.
There's nothing you can do to speed this up. But usually around the 2-hour mark is when you see Shack Tool checks. My favorite Shack Tool story was from Randomizer Super Week this year, where I ran this for that, and I found Moon Pearl there in like 35 minutes. Okay, nothing there, just power bombs. I actually think all the power bombs have been accounted for now.
Yep, there is a set item count for the randomizer as well. You will always see 200 missiles, 80 super missiles, 50 power bombs.
I think it's 195 and 85. Unless there was a change. Unless there was a change in V.
Yeah, that might be.
Unless there was a change in V11, because in V10 it was 195, 85, and 50.
That's just kind of weird. Why have the extra super pack? Nice round numbers.
It was for balancing purposes. Just because you don't really use your regular missiles that much, that Total just added. I think it was the purpose of adding. That is weird, but apparently that was just the magic number in testing. That's a question you'd have to ask Total about why that particular number of extra super packs. It's 7 extra packs. And plus, who's gonna 100% one of these anyway? Especially with self-locking keys, you can't even do 316 runs. Because if a key winds up locking itself, then you can't get that item. Alright. What's it? Plasma. Nothing. But that's why we saved.
Man, oh man.
So there's clearly a mirror hammer that's at just someplace incredibly silly. Or there's been a hammer, or there's just a hammer in Thieves Town, and I'm gonna feel really bad when I find it.
That would be the elephant in the room at this point, wouldn't it? Thieves Town. It's been there for quite some time.
I just didn't want to go there because of health concerns and because of the lack of hammer. But I think that's the next place we have to go.
The other not too nice spot here would be the front of Skull Woods. Can't get to the back without a fire rod. That's the other thing we'll be looking for at some point, because we'll need both rods to defeat Trinex and Turtle Rock.
Well, I'll be checking both well, if I check one location, I'll be checking the other.
Yeah, usually something along the lines of doing both dungeons at the same time. Some people in the community refer to Skull Woods as something they consider an overworld check, which is politically incorrect. But it's right there. It's the first spot you can access once you get into the dark world of Village of Outcasts, so why not?
I am starting to get rather worried about ice, though. Like, if nothing turns up, I might have to go in there. Oh, knowing where your fairy fountains are can be really helpful, too.
Yep, if you're ever in a situation where you don't have a lot of safety and you're running low on hearts, finding these fairy fountains gives you that extra little lift to be able to traverse more easily.
They're not useful too often, but when they are, they can be really helpful. This is probably one of the biggest routing challenges that you can come up with for Combo Randomizer, is having to route Link to the Past when you don't have Mirror Hammer. Because
no hammer, no mirror. Yep.
Because having the mirror gives you that. Having the mirror gives you just that world transition ability, and then just the hammer opens up Dark World access so much. Oh, right. This isn't the... What location was this that I... Oh, right. It's King's Tomb, but I don't have the mirror.
I thought that's what you might have been trying to look at, and you would normally need a mirror to access King's Tomb if you don't have Titan's Mitts. In this case, we get the opposite scenario. You have the Mitts, but not the mirror, so you would probably start at Sanctuary to check that.
That's what I'm going to do after I do Skull Woods and Thieves Town.
The other thing in this situation is, if you do find a mirror, since you defeated Aghanim, what the Link to the Past game will do is every time you save and quit in the Dark World, now it'll put you on top of the pyramid.
Correct, once I find mirror.
But that's only after you find a mirror.
So I'll go ahead and pop in here real quick.
Now, because of the version of the key logic that this randomizer is using, I like to use this drop-down as well, because you're guaranteed a small key in the pinball room, and be able to loop around to the front of the dungeon regardless.
That's correct, and that's one of the controversial changes, because that's actually the Link to the Past devs have actually gone back and forth on that quite a few times. I think it was back in version 23 was the first time that the developers randomized the pinball chest room. But then for version 24, it was reverted back to the way it is in this. But in version 31 of the Link to the Past randomizer, it was changed back to this way. So it's something the community's gone back and forth on. Another reason why I didn't want to check this area the first time I was here is because I didn't have Canis Samaria, and Canis Samaria makes this room a lot less of a pain. And now I gotta turn around and... I gotta turn around and check the big chest now. But so far, we found just Bupkiss and Skullwoods.
So we're in that unenviable situation where if you're going through Skullwoods and you know you've got 2 items at large, now one of them is guaranteed to be in the back of the dungeon, blocked by a fire rod. Which means if this is our other dungeon item, then we're not getting anything out of here now.
That's what I'm concerned about. Of course.
This is where I just look at the screen with a blank expression and go, thanks, game.
Yep. Yeah, this is not being a very friendly seed right now. Unless...
I'm seeing someone in the chat asking about a particular location of interest to anybody who's ever played Link to the Past Randomizer.
After this Dark World loop, I should probably go take a look at what's there.
So we can talk about what's potentially on that location without giving it its name. In this situation, I think the only
mirror.
2 items that you'd want to see there would be Mirror or actually Hammer.
Hammer can't be there.
No?
Pot is a pot is a pendant.
Oh, that's right.
So the only item that can be there is Mirror.
I don't know why I was looking at Eastern. Eastern's a 5/6 crystal. Curse you plus sign.
Isn't your reflection pretty?
Yeah, they give you little cryptic hints to what item is there. Oh, is that your first reserve tank?
I actually have seen all 4 of them. But at this point I don't need to see trash tanks. There's all kinds of colorful names that we have for reserve tanks.
Soda cans, trash tanks, nope tanks. Reserve tanks are not as important in normal. They're a good safety, a little bit of extra energy if you're in a bad spot.
So the thing we don't want to see is that small key.
This is one of those situations RaikouRider's been talking about. In a few dungeons, you can have the small or the big key locking itself in the big chest. In Thieves' Town, it's the small key. If you see the small key, that's basically telling you, hey, there's probably an item there. You might want to get it.
Although I think we've seen 3 items in the front.
Right, so the percentage of not seeing a small key here is pretty good. Or at least not seeing the big chest required.
Yeah, that's the reason why I've been coming here. Why I haven't come here until now is because I haven't had the hammer. And the big chest requires the hammer, and it is the single worst location across both games to Orphan. It takes more time to get down there than it does to go to Plasma.
Yep, and if you're in Greenmail like we are here and don't have a lot by way of safety, if you thought the first time going through Thieves' Town was bad, imagine the second one. There's your 4th item, so at this point, you just save the maiden.
I believe so. I'm just making sure I'm counting my items correctly, because there's just the maiden chest, the big chest. Yeah, those have to have map, compass, and small key.
And due to the logic that this dungeon is predicated upon, blind cannot have the small key.
Correct.
Because in Link to the Past's logic, it will always assume that you're going to use the small keys in the worst possible way to go through a dungeon, while still making the dungeon completable. So if you found the key somewhere in the front, it's going to assume you're going to use that key to get to the big chest, in which case now you can't get to blind, if it's not a key.
It's also surprisingly easy if you're on autopilot to open that chest and not actually get the maiden behind you. I've done that several times in races before, and it's pretty embarrassing. Going all the way up here, and it's like, oh, where's the lady?
As soon as you walk through that door, it closes behind you, and you have to go back through that whole loop. So we picked up Cana Berna earlier behind Ridley. And now all you do is, stand there and let blind just kind of die on it.
Oh, that only work. Oh, that trick only works with Kane.
Yeah, the cape does give you invincibility, but you still have to actively control your characters. Take some sword swipes.
No, I was specifically referring to the trick where if you pull against a wall, while using the cape, it doesn't consume any magic.
Yeah. That is the thing, is if you have the cape equipped, for some reason, when you're holding onto a wall, your magic meter doesn't drain. The cane, well, it's going to drain no matter what.
Just once we find these last few key items, then the siege should really take off.
So now you're going to do exactly what I think you're going to do, and nobody wants to do this. This is the hammerless smith chain.
Well, it's mirrorless.
And also
mirrorless.
Hammerless, mirrorless. In both situations, you're leaving some stuff behind. You can't check your magic bat, you can't check your hammer pegs, you can't check K45. You have to do this the long way on foot if you don't have a flute. Lots of stuff that isn't very nice.
Oh, there's Sick Kid too. I haven't checked that yet.
And it's been a while since you've seen that first bottle.
I can do that on the way. But there wasn't ever really a convenient time to come up here to make this check, though.
Yeah, there never really is one either. Sick Kid is just kind of isolated once you've already done your early sphere Kakariko checks. Unless you have a flute or a mirror to get back here easy.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. I haven't done this yet either.
Yes, the flute. The flute is important.
I haven't activated
because it allows you to. For those of you not familiar with Link to the Past, the flute is how you can basically it's fast travel. There are 8 points on the Light World map that you can flute to with the touch of a button. But you have to sit here in Kakariko Village and let this duck out of its shell first.
This should have been done a long time ago.
So it's the other thing we were talking about earlier. When RaikouRider went into Lower Norfair, there are two things in this combo randomizer that put that into logic. Having Gravity Viria and Space Jump to go through the front as Super Metroid would normally intend, or having Mitts and Flute and taking that portal from the Mire area also puts Lower Norfair into logic.
Oh, also before I save and quit, I should just do this now, before I forget. Because knowing this seed, I would not be surprised. This is a pedestal check. The only thing that can be here is mirror.
So the biggest danger of seeing something like the mirror on the pedestal, your progression, if you look at your pendant dungeons, it'll tell you the items you need to be able to pull the pedestal. And right now, the hammer and the fire rod are keeping us from having it in the logical progression. But reading this early will tell you just how much work you still have to do on the seed.
Cool, don't have to worry about that. But it had to be done.
That is some mercy for you right there.
It had to be done, though. So I'm gonna do the other half of Smith Chain now. I said I would do the other half of Smith Chain. I'm losing my mind. I'm sorry.
This seed, some of these seeds, when you have where the heck is my progression sorts of stuff, that will happen more often than you think it will.
Because when do you ever go this long without hammer? At this point, we're kind of down to single checks. Single checks or Ice Palace. And I actually don't think Ice Palace is a terrible idea right now, as scary as that sounds.
This is the kind of situation you don't want to find yourself in if you're in a race situation or just trying to go fast. But you're down to single isolated checks, like your Ether Tablet, like your Purple Chest, like your single item on the Eastern Palace boss. Stuff like that, just kind of, it piles on in your head.
What's worse is I can't even get to Ether Tablet right now.
I know.
But I think there is actually an item on the boss of Eastern.
Yep, we left an item on Armos because you had not had a bow. And that's just more ammo for Super Metroid. Again, not something you're unhappy to see when you don't yet have your charge beam.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just get this out of the way.
Yeah, at some point enough is enough in terms of the ammo department. So the question now is what we're looking for waiting on Armos this whole time?
If there's a hammer on Armos, that's so bad. Like, who would come back here in any reasonable amount of time? Especially when... Wasn't there something in here? I'm trying to remember what was in here.
After a couple hours, you just kind of forget.
I'm trying to remember if there was anything of value in here, but... I still don't think it was wrong to come here when I did. Oh, there was a Book of Mudora in here. I think there was, like... Wasn't there a Book of Mudora that led to Hookshot?
Book of Mudora that led to Hookshot on the right side of Desert. That is correct.
So
and that is kind of a bad chain of events to begin with, because usually you're not thinking about Desert until you have boots anyway.
So this is this is actually... I'm pretty sure this is a hard required double dip.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I think you have to double dip Eastern. That's another thing, is that Eastern Palace is a 5/6 crystal. I don't have Hammer to finish it. I don't have Hammer to finish Ice Palace, but pretty much as soon as I get Hammer, Ice Palace is the next place I'm gonna go. Because that just opens up way too much stuff.
The one thing I think we don't want to see here would be the mirror.
Oh, mirror would just turn this into such a wild goose chase. It helps if you actually equip Silver's Rye. Oh, this next room is one of my favorite rooms in, like, the Light World dungeons.
There are a lot of satisfying ways to take out large groups of enemies, and that is one.
You don't even need Silvers for that. Oh, Eastern Palace isn't the answer.
Nope. But it is a required crystal, so no matter what, getting in here and trying it is still a matter of progress.
Alright, I'm gonna try King's Tomb next. And then if it's not in King's Tomb, then it's just a Hammer and Ice Palace situation. Oh wait, no, there's two items in, there's two items, there's more stuff to do in Pod now, because we have bow. I can check bow side Pod.
That is true, and with the bow side on Pod, it was locked by having the bow. There are a couple ways you can do around it, but we didn't have those means at the time. Pod itself has 5 items. One of them might be on the right side, because you've already seen some of the dungeon items, and the big key in its chest.
I think that might be the answer. Yeah, I think I'm going to try the rest of Pod. That's another thing that's super rude, is Hammer and Palace Darkness.
Or as they call it in the Rando community, French vanilla. An item in its dungeon, but not in its vanilla place.
Or just in general, any... Oh, right, you can't do this, right? You don't have the hammer. You don't have hammer. You can't use that entrance.
That's the other thing with the Dark World access being through your midst. There are a number of portals you just can't use if you don't have a hammer.
And how much Ice Palace access we have depends highly on the key layout too. So if there winds up being a hammer in here, then I can just either finish Palace of Darkness or leave. It depends on if there's an item at Helm's Working. But if there does wind up being an item in Helmsor King, then I think we just finish the dungeon anyway. But I believe with the layout, with the layout that we have, I don't think there can be an item on the vanilla. I think the vanilla big key chest has to be a small key. Like, I'm pretty positive that has to be a small key. Pod key logic is just really, really hard.
There are a lot of ways that pod key logic can be kind of rude, but once you actually understand it, you can kind of anticipate where your keys are going to show up and save yourself a little bit of time by skipping them.
I'm not 100%, but I believe with the layout that we have that the arena chest, as it's called, I think that has to be a key. Catfish with silver arrows. Never mind. I was wrong.
This is that one situation where it can be a key and a key blocked by a bow, which puts an item in that vanilla big key location.
Yeah. It does. I got to thinking about it, and that's right, yeah. I guess I miscounted my keys.
The only thing I'd be worried about is whether or not you've seen both of your dungeon items yet.
Yeah, I have.
It's another thing to be very important to keep an eye on is whether or not you have your map and compass, because if you do this read and you haven't seen the compass, you're going to come up here and you'll be very disappointed.
Mm-hmm. Not too happy about finding the mirror shield.
So the mirror shield does have a few things that are kind of nice about it. In Turtle Rock, you can deflect all of those eye lasers that might give you trouble, say, in the west door or in the laser bridge. Well, what this does here is, well, it's a nice little extra safety over the red shield that unfortunately creates a lot of lag on the screen. And RaikouRider, what are you doing?
There's an item on the boss.
That you can't access without a hammer.
Send help, please.
Folks out there, I promise you, we are professional players of this randomizer. We would never do something silly.
Trying to figure out the best way to get to... Yeah, I think the answer... I think at this point, the answer has to be Ice Palace. I can't think of anywhere else it can be.
With all those other one-off checks already done, Ice Palace is gonna have to be the dive we take here. Now, no fire rod.
Yeah, that's another point. This is hammerless, fire rodless Ice Palace.
So what puts this in logic here is the Bombos Medallion, because it will kill the Freezors. And herein lies that risk we were talking about. We have two different ways we can route our way down here. And I'll be curious to see which one you select based on what's in this next chest.
Yeah, it's going to be heavily based on what's in this chest. I think I'm going to go the regular way. I really don't want to, but I think we have to take this path. Like, that's the biggest issue, is we have no hammer, we have... Like, the three things that I'm missing for Go Mode are all really helpful in this dungeon.
All the more reason to call this dungeon rude when it basically harbors one all the way at the bottom. So sit tight there, NMG fans. You're going to see an Ice Palace bomb jump.
Hopefully. I haven't done this in a while.
You might hear me say it once in a while if we're doing a weekly race or just playing on our own. I like to say, keep your bomb jumps in practice. Sometimes you end up entering Ice Palace without a key.
Nice! Works for me. Yeah, without Kane makes more sense, but like, Ice Palace with this loadout... And you might also notice that those armor upgrades still haven't shown up. They're probably both in, like, GT somewhere.
Wouldn't put it past the randomizer to do that. Now, this chest actually is another turning point here. And you see no key. So now you're going around the long way to get to the right side of Ice Palace.
Kidding me?
Oh, no way.
No way. No.
No!
No way. I apologize to SpeedGaming staff. This run is going to be overestimate.
This hammer location, though. My goodness! For real?
Yeah, that's one of the worst locations. I think they call this marathon luck.
Alright, so what we have here now is we can check the iced tea item, and we'll still have only seen... Have you seen two, or just one item, the hammer, so far? I think you've seen all your dungeon items. There's your wave beam.
Yeah, wave beam's good. I can do Zeb Skip now. But unfortunately, I have to go the long way.
Yep, so this would end up being the vanilla route.
This is the
Ice Palace.
This is the reason why people. This is the reason why people were so excited when Icebreaker got found, because it saves 2.5 minutes of wandering around full clearing Ice Palace. I tell you what, though, that hammer location, that's like Plando level. That's Plando level trolling. I'm sorry. Like, who would go down there and find that in a reasonable amount of time? Like, I'm sorry, that's absolutely ridiculous. And of course our last item was up here.
Oh, now we have a boomerang. Hooray!
You know the ironic thing is, if I actually did Icebreaker, it would have been way faster with how the items were placed. But I just couldn't risk it at the time. Just because of the key situation. I can go kill Cold Stare now, at least.
That's the biggest fear of doing your Icebreaker without a hammer. If it doesn't give you a key, you cannot progress and have to go back around to the front anyway. And now another fight that ends up being kind of spooky. with the green mail and only 11 hearts is Cold Stare.
I'm probably gonna put Cape on. After they get out of the corner. That's not the Cape.
This fight is over super quick if you have a Fire Rod or can keep them in the corner. If you hug one of the Cold Stare pups, they're going to do some hearts of damage.
Yeah,
And
4.
Yep. And if you get hit by one of those little ice blasts from the ceiling, it's considerably less painful, but it can bounce you around in any different ways.
It's still 2 hearts. Alright. So that's... Yeah, this is... And we still don't have a mirror.
You still go -2. The two nicest items for offense and movement, if you're moving from light to dark world, or from dark to light world, the Fire Rod to get through some spaces, the Mirror to go back and forth and check some really awful spots, and both still missing.
Yeah, 250, and we're go -2. And yes, that hammer was last locationed. But who isn't gonna last location the hammer?
The last thing you want to do is get caught in a hammerless ice palace where you find everything and go, well, shoot, now what? Now, normally we'd be talking about here how you can just mirror up to the Hyrule Castle portal and be in the front of the pyramid, but wait, there's no mirror.
Yeah, I would have loved to do that. Watch the mirror be in there. I actually don't want to find the mirror first. I want to find the mirror last, because then the mirror opens up this huge search space for the Fire Rod. And at this point, when you're in late game, you want to change back to focusing on volume rather than changing your progression. Good. Okay.
All right.
The only issue with this is now Mirror can be in TR, but I think it makes sense to go to TR. Now, this is going to seem a little bit weird, but I'm actually going to do Hera and Ether Tablet first.
I think that's a pretty defensive play, actually. Because if it's in either one of those, you can come back and just pop TR after every other dungeon is clear.
But either way, I am gonna have to climb the mountain again because of swamp. If we find this mirror soon, we might stand a chance of coming in underestimate. And this estimate that I gave was very generous for exactly this reason. Oh, look where those were.
Fat lot of help that gives us now, huh?
Now that
So more pole bombs are purely a luxury item in this randomizer.
No, they can be progression.
Well, in this layout, there absolutely you don't need them. You've got plenty of power bombs.
Yeah, I don't need them.
You already have your quick vertical movement.
Not now, but like if you find them early, you don't. That's also something you don't want to see early because then that can lead to a reliance on like IBJs can't fly, and even if you know how to do it, just vertical infinite bomb jump is just tedious. So we're just looking for that mirror. Okay, so now the question with Hera is, do we win the coin flip?
Yep, with the small key showing up early, it's like, okay, do I want to go wait out the coffee break room? Or is the item going to be sitting on Moldorm?
Well, you want to go to Moldorm first because you have to beat Moldorm anyway. So what? And none of the chests are terribly out of the way. So there aren't too many real choices when you do Hera, because Herapot's not actually very useful unless you're already in go mode when you come here. All right, basement's junk.
So this might have been a situation where if you played TR first and found your mirror, you end up saving Hera for your last dungeon.
Yeah, and then you could just Herapot. But I still think it's right just because we don't have mirror to do it this way.
See, now that all you're looking for is mirror, though, we can start talking about go moding through Swamp.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, we'll be able to have a go mode swamp, which is really nice. It's one of the quickest dungeons. I actually like Swamp Palace, though, for when you're searching, just because of the density. A lot of people don't like Swamp Palace because of how long it takes to clear, but you can't argue with 6 items. But that's neither here nor there. The mirror can't be there. It's probably somewhere in here. Because other than that, there's not actually that many locations where it can be. It can be on the Boston Pod. It can be in Spite Cave. It can be at Magic Bat. And it can be at Hammer Pegs. I think that's actually it. I think we've been everywhere else.
The only other one you didn't mention is Skull Woods and the Green Pendant.
Oh, you're right, yeah. Yeah, it could be there too. But I think...
Which...
It could be there too, but Turtle Rock just makes sense.
If I had $1 for every time I skipped Turtle Rock when it was open and lost a race or ended up being there an extra period of time, just running around the world looking for something because the progression I was waiting for was on Laser Bridge, well, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you all about
one of the
doing that,
armors.
now would I?
Oh yeah, this Cane of Burna dash is my favorite item dash in the game.
And now X has that shiny looking armor.
Finally, after almost 3 hours, we have the blue mail. I would be comfortable beating the rest of the game. This way. If I see red mail, I won't turn it down, but...
Now this room is considered by some to be one of the worst rooms in all Link to the
Oh, that
Past.
room's awful.
Those chain chomps hurt.
Yeah, they do...
I saw Butter.
They do 4 hits of damage, and yes, that was Butter. I think for us to be underestimate, it had this has to be somewhere in this dungeon, because we still have to go do Swamp. And then Ganon's Tower plus Mother Brain typically takes about 20 minutes. Of course, it depends on where the big key is. Also, if Charge Beam shows up. Because if Charge Beam shows up, then we can kill Mother Brain super duper fast.
So the one thing that Turtle Rock can do is it can put that big key in the front section of the dungeon, in which case if you're trying to save time going through here, you might give that vanilla big key location a miss. Just steal the key from the Hokaboku in the previous room. Right here, the big key was in its vanilla location, so there's no stealing a key.
No, there's not.
And that's why we consider Turtle Rock to be one of the worst dungeons to try to go mode, because it doesn't want to cooperate. Usually there's not a lot of time to save.
It's mostly just that. Thankfully Mimic Cave can't have it because that location is mirror locked. The last seed I played had Morph Ball there.
Yuck.
And did I mention that seed also had Gravity and Mire? Like Gravity and Dependent Mire? Have fun routing that. Fun routing that.
Hammer in the middle of Pendant Skull Woods, that doesn't feel good either.
Oh no. We're kind of running out of locations here. Although, as JTN says, JTN is infamous for saying the answer is always Laser Bridge.
There's a number of memes involving Turtle Rock in the community. It always has a bow. It always has the ice rod. It always has your progression. It's always on Laser Bridge. Of course it is. Where else would it be? In a moment, we'll find out if that's what the seed wants Raikou to do.
Oh, and that hook shot that was in Pendant Desert? Yeah, about that. Even when you have the read, it can just be difficult to navigate seeds like this. Don't need that now.
And this is why the Mirror Shield is so important.
Oh, Mirror Shield's super helpful for this room.
It doesn't do much anywhere else, but this is a good spot to have it. Alright, so do you want to talk about Trinex? Should I talk about Trinex?
Go ahead, I'm going to probably just focus on the fight.
So Trinex is the 7th Crystal Dungeon boss that you have to face here in Link to the Past. As his name suggests, he has 3 necks. And one is a fire neck, vulnerable only when hit with the ice rod. The other is an ice neck, vulnerable only when hit with the fire rod. And the third one comes out when you destroy both of the other 2 heads. So Raikou's got his ice rod equipped, and he's gonna... With the gold sword, this is a lot faster. It's one of the few bosses in the game that the gold sword really saves you a lot of time on. So this is shoot with a rod, swing, swing, item switch, swing, bang.
Yeah, fight's super easy fight with Butter.
Yeah. Now you have to go through this longer than ever necessary, oh no, the shell is exploding animation. After which Trinex will pop out of it as like a busted version of Moldorm, and his head is vulnerable until the middle segment of his body is glowing, and then that's the only place you can
It
hit
ain't here.
But a few well-timed shots there.
It ain't here.
Oh, well, welcome to Wild Goose Chase O'Clock, everybody. So you're in this situation, you're going through the seed. What are you thinking right now?
Where's the dun? Although you...
In this is the situation where, you know, most of the time, you're done with Turtle Rock and you're going west into Ganon's Tower because it's your last dungeon. Today, we're going west and we're hopping off and we're going straight to Spike Cave.
And I was thinking about this location earlier, too, if you recall.
So now you're in, well, the hammer unlocked this, this, and this, and there's only so many locations that actually end up being a beneficial check here. It's all a bunch of isolated one-offs.
Really? Really?
Welcome to Fetch Quest O'Clock.
You know what else? The shovel hasn't shown up either.
Don't look now, the chat just said time to last location mirror.
It's gonna happen. We all know that. There's not...
And this is something that can happen. It's... You do all of your progressive density checks, and now you're just left with a bunch of one-off, bad 1-2 check locations.
Yeah, we're down to single locations now.
The only one that's not is Skull Woods, because technically Monthula is a two-item play.
But I'm gonna do the Light World stuff first, just because the thing I'm missing is Mirror. Because then I can do Skull Woods and then Hammer Pegs.
And then Hammer Pegs end up being the possible last spot it can be.
Yeah. That's right.
I say possible because if Hammer Pegs is the shovel and it's on the dig spot, then, well... That's just the seed saying, hey, are you having fun? So am I.
Oh, no, the seed has already asked me if I'm having fun several times.
And now, SMZ3 is not always like this.
Oh, no.
A lot of times you end up with some pretty nice spots that are much more friendly to just going through and getting what you need, getting out. And sometimes you end up going absolutely everywhere, and one item leads to another in a logic chain that puts you in, well, now I have the fire rod, so I'm going to go do this thing that I need to complete the game with. But instead, there's this other thing that's been waiting in the back of our minds this whole time with that green pendant in Skull Woods.
The whole issue this entire seed has just been the hammer. Like, the hammer has been the source of all of our problems. Because who's going to go into Ice Palace to find that anytime soon?
Of course, you'll want to pick up that pot key, because instead of having to kill the enemy in the back of Skull Woods, you can just go ahead and have the second key to just go through the second door.
I'm actually going to check this item first. That's not the right way through.
Now, I'm being asked if Lamellus was an item. I think you saw the hookshot and an item in the big chest in Desert, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Landmolus is a dungeon item. Well, I guess I'm walking out of here. Well, I have a ferry anyway, so I couldn't death warp. Like, I couldn't death warp anyway, just because I'm...
So that leaves Hammer Pegs. Wouldn't it be the and the green pendant? So you don't not take care of Monthula when you're here. You just do it. And there is one other thing that we're being reminded of. It's Helmasaur.
Right. I think I would call this one Well, there are several people that I know of that would call this seed yet another Raikou special. This is why I'm not allowed to roll seeds for, like, just our group's races.
This is the kind of stuff I would roll in a multi-world, or the kind of thing you might see on a weekly race.
Oh, I have seen.
There are a lot of people in a lot of communities that are notorious for not rolling very kind seeds.
Oh, this is not one at all.
And there is your second item locked in the back behind the fire rod. So the green pendant now, and hammer pegs, and Helmosaur. Down to 3 locations, everybody. Which one do you think it is? I swear, if it's on Helmosaur, I'm declaring the seed rolling generation, bewitched or something.
Or it's just the part where I get banned from rolling seeds again.
I hope not. No, what they do first is they'll be like, okay, you can't roll seeds for anybody but yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Chat, this is something that actually happens in the community. If you are known for rolling seeds for, just multiplayer events or...
like this one.
Showing on your own channel, like this one. If you are known for coming up with mess like this all the time, then forget calling this a marathon. This is just a slog.
Oh, no kidding.
They call you... It's here, isn't it? Of course it is.
Oh my god. Wow. That's just incredible.
And with that, we're going to put RaikouRider in what we call Go mode, which means he doesn't need to check anything else. He can complete both games, so he's just going to go.
That's... Oh, and no,
that's
and no!
That's the... That's the best spot to just mirror bonk.
I have never mirror bonked there before. So, and take note.
When you're just like...
Take note. Take note that is behind Hammer and Ice Palace.
Oh, boy. So, now that we've cooled off in the trough there, let's talk about go modding through Swamp Palace. Swamp, actually, when you're doing a full clear, ends up being a little bit of a slower dungeon that you might have to go through. But now that we don't have to check anywhere near as much because we have everything we need to complete the game, you just bypass a lot of stuff and go straight to the back.
Yeah, we don't even have to open... The only chest we have to open is the one that contains the first key. The one that has to contain a key.
And now we can show off the mirror block deletion that a lot of Link to the Past fans know and love.
Oh, I love doing that. Also, there is a key sanity mode for the combo randomizer that is currently in development.
That there is. You might see some of your more prolific runners on Twitch making some multi-world closed testing with other players. The logic is already starting to show up on the SMZ3 logic website, so be warned, key sanity is coming, and it's going to change what you know about this randomizer for sure.
The way it's been implemented on the Super Metroid side is really interesting too.
Something about door keys.
Yeah, most regions have 2 keys plus a boss key, which I think is really neat. But if you do try to play it, I will warn you, key sanity makes this take a lot longer. Because you'll typically have to go in and out of dungeons 2 and 3 times. But once we have that opened up, we don't need to actually open another chest for the rest of the dungeon. It's the same way with go moding Ice Palace. Is if you know how to do the bomb jump or Icebreaker, you don't have to open a single chest. So. Oh, speaking of tech, I can do this diver down.
Now, do you have a preference between using the cane or the bomb?
I prefer the game. I also have kind of a strange setup for it. Come on.
Oh, you use the left side setup. See, I was just practicing this one yesterday.
The reason why I like that setup is you can kind of tap against the wall and move and use that to move one pixel at a time.
Yeah, there's a few different ways you can set up your diver down. The left side there that Raikou just showed you. There is a right side rail clip that you can do that's kind of similar, where you just jump down, splash, come back up, and wedge yourself between that and the rail. But you can also use in the other pool to kind of skip the key if you're doing left side. So one time you might want to flood the key. And there's a bomb setup where you can use a bomb explosion, place it the right vertical pixel to put you into the rail and drop off that way. And here's Argus, and Argus doesn't stand a chance here.
Alright, so there's our 7 crystals. So with our 7 crystals acquired, it is now time for one of the community's favorite games. The Big Key game.
If you're a Link to the Past fan, you already know what we're talking about. Going up Ganon's Tower requires you to find the Ganon's Tower Big Key, and it can be anywhere in the basement. From check number 1, the first chest you open in Hope Room, to check number 22, which is usually the check you do in Tile Room. And a lot of the communities like to say, hey, take a guess, win some bragging rights, feel good.
Now, where is our Big Key going to be located? And if I didn't have the Pegasus boots, I would say you can't pick chest number 3.
Do you consider 3 to be the torch? A lot of people like saying that it's 7. But that's also predicating on finding a key in Hope Room and going straight to the right side to Compass Room.
I'm a firm believer in full left side. I only do right side if I feel I'm behind. I mean, and it's hard to tell because it's hard to tell in this kind of a situation with the hammer being in the big chest in Ice Palace. It would be hard to tell if you're ahead or behind because the people you're playing against are probably also last location to hammer. Because going into Ice Palace without hammer makes not one lick of sense.
It's the kind of gamble you make if you feel like this is something literally nobody else is going to do. And it really hurts when it doesn't pay off, and it really feels good when it does.
It's one of those decisions you make if you feel you have such a colossal skill disadvantage that you need to get extremely lucky to be able to make it up.
So how about you? Is there any one spot that you prefer to find your big key if you're having to dig around through it?
As early as possible.
Well, that's the obvious answer, isn't it?
But statistically, for me, I like to find it in Rando Room because just because I'm a firm believer in full left. Okay, that'll stay right there.
I do like Stalfos' room coming up here, just because you're going to go to this room early no matter what, whether you do left or right.
I did not want to actually pick up that pot. Since I have half magic, I'm going to do the Stalfos room this way. A lot of ammo.
So yeah, there are a few different ways you can choose to route through Ganon's Tower, of course. Raikou is choosing to go full left after checking the 2 chests in Hope Room, so he's going to take this all the way down to Ice Armos. Eventually.
Eventually. That room can be a pain to navigate. There's the key. Another note about going up Ganon's tower is you need to have one small key. Everybody's done it. You feel terrible when it happens, but everybody's done it. Everybody's gone up Ganon's tower without a small key before.
Nobody wants to climb GT twice, but sometimes you forget a key and you end up doing exactly that.
Or it's Plando when you have to.
Of course. Of course. And a few different ways you can tackle some of these rooms. Raikou's going to go ahead and just walk right up to mimics and shoot these with the silver arrows. They'll all die in one shot.
Yeah.
You can also stand and let them spit fire at you, but that doesn't change anything because you have a mirror shield.
Having silvers for the red mimics is so nice. But there are a lot of different ways you can approach that room.
It should be noted, the mirror shield is the only shield in the game that can block those fireball attacks from the red mimics and the Lynels.
But even the mirror shield can't block Beamos beams.
Beamos, most OP enemy not need Dead Rock.
Alright, there's a lot of different ways to approach Gauntlet. These rooms look so cool when they're done right. Like, that Stalfos room I just did is one of my favorite ones.
This is where you might go, oh gosh, your HP is getting low. Powder the bunny beam. Well, don't do that. You have a fairy, for one. For two, when you do powder that bunny beam right before Lamolus 2, you reset Lamo's RNG.
Correct. Yeah, if I didn't have a fairy, I would powder that bunny beam. There, finally something went right. That's always satisfying.
When you say silvers are a very nice item to have, you're not kidding. There's a lot of enemies and bosses that silvers can literally just cheese. Vitreous is one of them, but we didn't have a bow at the time. And these Wizrobe rooms can be some of the most entertaining ones to watch in a tower climb.
Oh, when they're done right, absolutely.
That second one still trips me up to this
That
day.
second one's hard.
Oh.
Like, that's legitimately hard to... It's legitimately hard to do that correctly. Now, I am gonna need to grab this full magic. And another important thing is... Well, I have a fairy, that's fine. You do need to grab that small key because there are two keys up here. I am going to open this left chest, as well as a pre-Boulderm chest, because I could still find a charge beam.
And here's where the powder really comes in handy, being able to get both of these little obstacles out of the way, and then all you're dealing with is the spark. And Ganon is unusually kind with some of these pickups at the top of the tower, too.
Oh, absolutely. Only one more chance at charge beam. Nope, just a burrito. But that's fine. We have all kinds of ammo for Mother Brain.
Yep, we were talking about it earlier in the run. The number you're looking for when you have your full number of supers is 60. because that's exactly the number of super missiles you'll need to kill Mother Brain in its second form.
You also need...
That, of course, doesn't count for...
Mother Brain 1 you need enough ammo for as well.
Yep, gotta be able to break the glass tube and do... I forget how much HP MB1 has, but it's not anywhere near as much. I want to say it's 6,000.
3,000.
3,000. Oh, close. And if you thought Agonometry 1 was a fun course to take, here's Agonometry 2.
Aga 2 geometry is just hard. Most good players can get it in 3 rounds.
Sometimes the RNG stacks them up and it's real easy to get a 3-round, and sometimes the RNG says, we're going to go on 3 opposite corners, good luck.
But I do want to apologize to SpeedGaming staff that this is going to run a little bit over. It shouldn't run more than a few minutes, though. A few minutes past 3:30. But with butter and silvers, this will be really quick.
Ganon, as you know, the big bad at the end of the game here, he'll take 6 shots in his first phase, 6 shots in his second phase. The fourth phase is always 4 swings, and from there you're just talking about silver arrows, and that's easy. That's with the gold sword. If you've got the tempered sword, it's 12-12, and if you've got the master sword, it's 12 spins.
Yeah, if you have master sword, you have to use spins.
The master sword fight isn't anywhere near as difficult as some people think it is. It's just a big ol' endurance and movement test. You gotta be able to dodge all sorts of stuff.
As someone who has completed Legacy low percent, I can attest to that.
So Raikou's going to set up here to get this torch to always be lit.
Yeah, the right torch will never go out now. And of course he's giving me patterns where I can't double him. Not one double. But that'll take care of him. And that is a pig roast. And get your G's in chat.
It's only 1 G, because in SMZ3, you might think, hey, I finished Ganon, isn't this game over? But wait, we haven't fought Mother Brain
Yeah, we have to beat both of them. It doesn't actually matter which order you beat Ganon and Mother Brain in. Most people will typically beat Ganon first, just because the items that you find in Ganon's tower can help out with the Mother Brain fight. And just Turian in general.
And sometimes if you're still planning your next move and you have plenty of equipment to fight Mother Brain, you might do that first, because not having the timer reduces the lag that you see in the escape sequence.
Oh, we have all kinds of ammo. We're fine.
I'm gonna think you're taking a refill first.
Well, I need to take a refill for... That's for supers.
And supers are the thing you want to keep an eye on right now, because that's what's going to do most of your damage at Mother Brain. Not having a charge beam means you can easily soft lock in this fight if you don't have enough ammunition.
Oh, we have plenty of ammo.
Yeah, this is actually a really comfortable end game for Raikou here. He's got more than enough energy to be able to get through, even if he has a mishap. He's got regular bombs to unlatch the Metroids. He's got Ice Beam to freeze the Metroids. He's got 70 supers to load up on Mother Brain.
Well...
And he's going to do a little skip tech in just a few minutes here that's actually kind of neat and saves you some ammunition as well.
Well, we did full clear both games, so of course we're going to have a ton of stuff.
We're going to have to look into your seed spoiler and see where that charge beam was hiding this whole time. It's probably in Swamp,
Well, it doesn't
honestly.
give the full... The site doesn't give the full spoiler anymore.
Yeah, right now as of V11, the site only gives you kind of a minimal progressive spoiler for the objects that you need to complete the seed, not necessarily the nice-to-find things like your silvers, your charge beam, or your third sword.
This is already not a good start for these rooms. So these rooms are incredibly challenging to do quickly.
Most of the fear of time loss in here is if a Metroid happens to latch on, because then if you don't have Morph Ball bombs, you're going to have to use 3 power bombs to kill it. If you do, it's still tricky to get them off of you.
Well, also, it's just a lot of menuing, too. Because you have to do a lot of quick menuing while still maintaining big movement speed, and it's just... Like, other than the first room, that actually wasn't bad.
And here comes the most important cutscene of Torian.
The baby. So what I'm going to do to prep for this is I'm actually going to be taking both suits and screw attack off so that the baby can damage me down a little bit faster. Well, no, I don't have enough ammo to do that.
You were thinking about doing a Crystal Flash to skip the refill run?
Yeah, but without you can't really do that without Charge Beam. So with no suits on, the baby drains your health real fast. But I am going to leave Screw Attack off because Screw Attack gets in the way of the next trick I'm going to do. Hopefully. Hopefully, because it is finicky. Even for the best players, this can be finicky.
So there's a few different ways you can set this one up. Of course, we're going to take that energy refill first because you kind of maybe need that energy to survive Mother Brain's attacks. No, Raikou here is going to set up for an Ice Zebetite skin. And this allows you to pass through all those Zebetite barriers that are right before Mother Brain. Because the way that the Super Nintendo cartridge was programmed, it doesn't have enough processing space to have all of them on the screen at the same time. So it loads them one at a time. If you pass through that first one, the other ones won't even appear.
Correct. So I need to shoot this Rinka as soon as it spawns. And then land in the corner, wait for something to shoot me. It helps if you spin jump. Because you want to spin jump just barely off the platform. So that you can get inside of the Zebetite's hitbox.
Yep, the game looks at this and goes, oh, well, there's a frozen enemy here. The collision detection says you get to stand on that enemy, and then your next jump, you literally just go through the Zebetite. And voila, Zebetite skip achieved. Let's take out Mother Brain.
And then with this many supers, this should be a breeze. I have plenty of missiles for backup, so I can tank a billion shots and still get there.
Yeah, this is absolutely a very comfortable ammunition situation for this endgame fight. Because every super that you miss is going to be 3 missiles, and as you can see, we've got 20-something worth of missiles and supers just waiting to back up, so... it would take something catastrophic to end this
catch-up phase at 45.
Call it catch-up. Some people like to think of this as Mother Brain's short order cooking. You know, you got your onion rings, you got your hash browns, you got your french fries if she decides to do an eye laser. She doesn't have some time based on her AI. And, of course, the ketchup. And what would this be without an extra order of rainbow sherbet at the end?
Yeah. A few people in my community like to call this the food fight.
I've heard this referred to as McBrainies.
There's a lot of colorful names. I would save the critters. But we're already running over, so I don't think I'm going to.
Now, if this is a race and you already know you've lost, would you still save the animals, RaikouRider?
No. Not after a seed like this.
Come on.
Not after a seed like this. But also...
Yeah, this is in spite of the game.
This is a double full clear, basically, and we're not even that far over.
So, you know, you just kind of chill, take a stretch, sit back, have a drink of water. You know, you can't do much here. There is a glitch you can set up where you have control of Samus during this cutscene and can load into Mother Brain with some charge beam shots. Unfortunately, we didn't find the charge beam.
Yeah, we don't have charge beams, so stand up wouldn't be helpful. So it's just a matter of putting 36 hyper beam shots into Mother Brain's head and escaping the planet. Yeah, I am definitely going to order a new controller after this because I have never had this much trouble with my shoulder button.
And just like that, Mother Brain is going to dissolve into the same dust that the other enemies did after the Metroid had at lunch.
Aww. Nope. I was one frame off of a frame perfect escape.
It gives you 3 minutes to get out of dodge here, and I can't say I have personally witnessed anybody failing the escape.
I think I did my first time through the game because it's meant for like a timer that's supposed to be kind of tight for somebody playing the game for the first time. But with this loadout, depending on how much I get steamed, we might actually see a sub-minute escape.
Sub-minute is a very good baseline for somebody who knows what they're doing, knows how to move, and can spark in all the right places.
And time is coming up soon, when we face forward in the ship. And time. I actually split a little bit early, but okay. Considering the seed, I will take this time. Locations too, like the bow is pretty bad. I felt like I had good reading ability that seed. It was just the source of woe in the entire seed was just a hammer. Because no one's...
You did what I do. I'll even say, hey, I should do this. This is probably where it is. And you do everything you can to dodge that. And it ends up being your last location. What do you know? You were right the whole time. It's very easy to do.
Oh, easily. And suddenly Star Fox. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get new credits music for version 11. Because every version we've gotten new credits music. But one nice thing about the credits and how they've been changed is we do get some statistics.
Yes, indeed. It's going to show you where you found some of your items, how long you spent in each area of Super Metroid on Planet Zibis, how many transitions you made between each game, stuff of that nature. Fun numbers to crunch sometimes.
And I do want to give a big shout out to Janiceal6. He was the person that showed me that this exists and got me into this project. It's been a ton of fun. There's so much variance in ways the game can expect you to travel that you can play something like 200. Like I've played 200 plus seeds, and I'm still finding new ways new ways to route. It's a constant learning experience, even for the best runners.
You talk about variants. Think about all these things that could have been easier to route with some of the go mode items that we had in this particular seed. Hammer would have made getting to Dark World a lot easier in a number of different areas. The Mirror would have given us a big old cache of items to maybe dive into Swamp for. There's a lot of things that change up when your item pool just scrambles in two different worlds.
The Titan's Mitts were pretty bad, too. The Titan Mitt location. Missing Vario was my fault, but there was nothing I really could have done about the hammer. But with that is going to be a wrap for the SMZ3 combo randomizer demonstration, as well as a wrap for the Metroidvania Marathon. Thank you so much to SpeedGaming for letting me play this.
Yeah, thank you, RaikouRider, for having me on board. You know, with the little hiccups here and there, still a lot of fun unraveling this one. Oh boy.
All right, and with that, just have a good night.